but I think the development of full artificial intelligence will spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody's checking it out.
I don't know whether rockets or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. They were too fast to be helping.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
So you said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1 0
doesn't have your best interest in mind. The government is self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness. Well, good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting outside of Las Vegas, Nevada. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, we're taking your calls as we go to the forgotten places of the ancient past. Now, if you look at the wilderness of the world, and we've talked about this quite often in many different capacities, it's there's a lot that's still hidden out there. A lot of the things we know in the archaeological and the anthropological records are incomplete. Is not an adequate way to put it. It's really just we are scratching the surface of what we know when it comes to where we came from and what humans are, and some of our ancestors that have vanished in mysterious ways, even millions of people in this particular case. And we're going tonight into a weird space where this is all the links are in the description as usual. So if you're interested in the ideas, I fully encourage you to go read up on this stuff. It is highly fascinating. There's a ton of wild information in this. And of course, there's a Troubled Minds thread that you won't hear anywhere else because, well, that's really what we do these days. Dig in, kind of look at some of the other weird angles on these things. And not really with a big imagination, but with something more to the degree of what are we missing? And certainly in this particular story, I'm telling you what, there's something that we're missing. And we'll get to that momentarily. But we start here. So this is from nature.com. It's a scientific paper. And the headline is this: over 20,000 pre-colonial earthworks in the Southwest Amazonia, which is incredible, right? We were told the Amazon was the last frontier. It was one of the untouched places of the earth that has been basically a primordial forest since the dawn of time, right? Sort of, kind of, right? Well, not really, not anymore. That used to be the old narrative. But if you look at this is absolutely wild. And there's some pictures in here. But of course, lasers reveal hundreds of geoglyphs made by a mysterious civilization in the Amazon rainforest thousands of years ago. Yeah, that's right. Not a few hundred, not 500, not 800, thousands of years ago. Okay. And now when we look at prehistory, ancient history, and the things like this, like I said, it's been pretty well mapped. But when you look at something like this, now suddenly this is off the charts. This is something nobody ever dreamed would be this massive. And look, we've seen the Mayans and the Aztecs and some of these populations that they, had traced back hundreds of years, but certainly not thousands of years. And that's why this is incredibly wild. Now, let's see. The information on this is really good. It's really robust. It's a place called, and all these links are in the description. Oops. And you can find all of that there, everything down below. So here's the thing, right? So the wild part about this is when I was digging and doing the thing, not only did they find enough of this, let me read the article. That's probably the best way to do this. Enough of this where it'll make your eyes spin, and boggle your mind. But in the larger context, there's so much here that they scanned 3% of the Amazon. So here we go. So a large ancient population dubbed the Aquary civilization, that's Aquuiry, by archaeologists, may have lived in the southwestern Amazon jungle roughly 2,000 years ago, rewriting what historians thought they knew about the early inhabitants of the deep rainforest. Okay. According to a new study published in Nature, researchers say they've identified over 20,000 pre-colonial earthworks in a tiny section. Now, this is where it's going to boggle your mind. Just 3% of the Amazon, of the area historically occupied by the Aquary in this case. So the earthworks offer evidence of a monument-building pre-colonial civilization on a much grander scale than ever seen before. The scale and precision of these constructions is simply astonishing, said the study's lead author, University of Helsinki archaeologist Martti Parssinen, according to New Scientist. Now, the other bizarre part about this is, okay, so they found this, they scanned 3% with LiDAR, and suddenly we're talking about plus 20,000 structures in this tiny little space from 2,000 years ago that they estimate was between 1 and 3 million people in the population. Okay. Well, you're like, wow, Mike, this is super cool. This is a very nice science article. When are we going to get the troubled mind stuff? Yeah. Okay. Well, number one, prehistory is foggy. We still don't know a ton of stuff about what we don't know. That's the one troubled minds thread that sits. The second is if you read many of these articles, which I did, and they're all similar information, but check this out. In this particular one, this is from livescience.com, and the lead archaeologist, the one just mentioned there, actually said this. If you scroll down to the bottom, and here's some actually amazing pictures of what they found. Actually, I'm sorry, this is not... okay, like this one. Okay, it is because some of these have no pictures whatsoever, which is really weird. And which caught my attention, by the way, was this one. It says a lost civilization carved pentagrams. Let me move my big head out of the way. Carved pentagrams into the Amazon jungle, then vanished without an explanation. Right. So it's like, maybe there's something to this. I kind of made a joke on X there. I'm sure there's nothing to worry about here. But when you look at it and scroll down, they don't have any photographs whatsoever of any of this stuff. And I'm like, that sounds suspicious to me. Where's the pentagrams, bro? I'm like, come on, you're killing me. Okay, but the other part is that in this Live Science article, and this is where we get the title from tonight, Where the Map Goes Quiet. Meeting places for otherworldly beings. And it is in here. Watch this. So it's one place I found, one little nugget from the Live Science article where this actual archaeologist said this, and I quote, according to native oral traditions, the Aquary centers were built to foster relations among communities. And with significant otherworld beings, Parssinen said, these centers also served as venues for gatherings and political decision-making, and they enabled chiefs to display generosity, he added. Yeah, notice the quote ends and with significant otherworldly beings. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. This could be some hocus pocus, just throwing some keywords in there to, make people go, what the hell does that mean? And yeah, what the hell does that mean? And that's the question tonight. How come even in some of these places, the most remote places on Earth that supposedly have never been occupied by any human civilization ever, at least notable, sizable, this is 3 million people. But in this particular case, significant otherworldly beings. And why specifically do we always find the ancients searching for beings from elsewhere? Whether that's the Fey realm, like we talk about in folklore and mythology, whether that's space with the Space Brothers and spacemen and little green men, as we like to call them. Look, I don't know those answers, but that is the question tonight. Why do we always find ourselves searching for these otherworldly beings? That's it. That's all I got. I mean, hey, there's a ton more here. Of course, we're going to talk about what these things might be and why we continue to look for them. That's it. Be right back. More Troubled Minds in just one moment. After, in this case, a quick word from our sponsor, which will be, what's it going to be? The Stoic Minute. I've got one coming up for Ray K2. I haven't cut the commercial fully yet. I'll get that coming up next week sometime. But anyway, be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. Don't go anywhere. Catch you on the other side of the break. Feeling stressed? Overwhelmed? In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to get swept away by our emotions. Take a breath and find your inner strength with the Stoic Minute.
You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength.
The ancient Stoic philosophers understood that we can't control everything in life, but we can control how we react.
The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts.
Focus on what you can influence. Cultivate a positive mindset and let go of what you can't change. Find your inner strength. Live each day with courage, wisdom, justice, and moderation. Embrace the Stoic virtues and find peace within. The Stoic Minute, brought to you by Jack in Oregon. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Let us continue, shall we? Okay, so that's where we start, where the map goes quiet. Meeting places for otherworldly beings. And like I said, the clickbait headline, of course, is a lost civilization carved pentagrams into the Amazon. That's not true. It's not entirely true. It is true that they have pictures of this stuff, and it is, they got maps and all this stuff you would expect them to have. But another thing came up here. I'll see if I can find it. But there's some of the images. Again, move my head out of the way so you can see it if you guys are watching the stream. And these are some of the things they found. And remember, this is deep in the Amazon forest. This is from literally 2,000 years ago. They said, actually, the estimate is from 100 to 300 CE. Okay? Like, that is way back. That is so far back that it makes you wonder, like I said, what the hell was going on in the Amazon? And not only that it's been way overgrown and hidden and lost forever. I mean, this is certainly going to be the place where, they have the golden fleece or the whatever mythological hidden thing in some treasure. I mean, we're going to find it here, right? They've been telling stories for thousands of years about these places and about these things. And so maybe, just maybe, this particular place, this meeting place for these otherworldly beings are significant in some way or another. And so that's the question tonight as we start. Why do you think every single civilization we've ever found is infatuated with these otherworldly entities, whatever that looks like, whether it's a demigod, whether it's God, him, or herself, however you see that, whether it's the Space Brothers or the Spacemen, the Little Green Men, as I said? It seems strange to me that even in this, even with the clickbait headline, which is wild to me, that they're like, carved pentagrams into the Amazon, but then they don't mention the otherworldly beings? I don't know. Maybe I'm sniffing out the clickbait from all the different places, because the only one that I found that mentioned it was from Live Science. And again, this is exactly the quote. I peeled it out so I didn't have to look for it. According to native oral traditions, the Aquary centers were built to foster relations among communities and with significant otherworldly beings. Okay? All right, there we go. That's where we start. Now, why? Why is this? Why is it a continuing theme on and on and on, over and over and over? And look, they're actually suggesting that this 3% of the Amazon they scanned means that the entirety of the Amazon forest, unexplored mostly, is going to be covered with ancient civilizations and these ancient structures. So what the hell does that mean? Who was there? Oh, and here's the other part of that mystery, by the way. If you look at the Aztecs and the Mayans, they were all known to disappear around the same time, within a couple hundred years of each other, abruptly, and even though they had been there for hundreds and hundreds of years prior. And the main ongoing theory for that is, of course, climate change, drought, some of these other things that the buzzwords that the modern scientists like to use. But in this particular case, it seems as if around the same time as when this actual civilization also just vanished off the face of the earth. Same time as the Mayans, and the Aztecs were a little bit prior, but I'm mixing some timelines here. But around the same time is when it all dumped. And suddenly all these people, millions of people, 1 to 3 million people estimated here, gone. Why? Does that not seem suspicious to you? Anyway, what the hell's going on here? And why are we always searching for these otherworldly beings? 702-857-6939. We are taking your calls tonight. If you want to be part of the conversation, click the Discord. And just real quick, before we get to James, thanks, James, for jumping in here. Always a pleasure. No, there's no truth here. Okay, we're looking at these ideas outside of the box, outside of the scientific paradigm, outside of the maybe in the Twilight Zone aspect of it, and talking about the unseen realm. That's what we do. Now, of course, there's a lot of ways we can take this, and that's why we do it in the format we do, take calls and talk to people, because that's what a conversation is about, dare I suggest. But there's no truth here. If you're trying to cite me and say, oh, well, Michael Strange said so, don't. Go to the source material. That's why I link all of it. I want you to be able to follow all of the things that I found and then be able to read back and then even find more stuff that I missed, because there's going to be a ton of that. So thanks for hanging tight. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being part of this. Happy Sunday to everybody out there. Tomorrow in Las Vegas, by the way, the weather update, it will be less than 100 degrees, and I am thrilled. Yeah. Anyway, 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. Let's go to James. James in Michigan, the paranormal expert at Troubled Minds, Salcedo Paranormal. What's up, my man? You're on Troubled Minds. How are you, sir? Go right ahead.
I'm okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. Welcome.
Good. This is a fascinating topic, and I'm just really wondering here, and I don't know if this may not be original, who knows, but I'm just wondering about the disappearances of those civilizations. Did they disappear because they, whatever they were communicating with, whoever they were communicating with in terms of otherworldly beings, told them, okay, we're done here. You have to move elsewhere now to communicate with us, or there's others that you should communicate with. And so we're done here. And so then they move on. I don't know. I haven't looked into that. I haven't done any research on that. It'd probably be hard to do that, but I'm just really curious now, because again, there's not like other than the scientific explanation of possibly of, the climate change and all that. But aside from that, if there's not any other explanation, I'm just thinking if they were in contact with non-physical beings of some kind, whatever kind really, then there wouldn't be evidence of why they left or of who told them to leave necessarily, which is to me is fascinating. Is that why people just empty out of a place, any place around the world at any given time?
Yeah, and that's the weird one. And Matt Sal's got an explanation here, and I think he's partially right. He says the Spanish Inquisition wiped them out, and Cortez and all that stuff. If you followed any of that, you guys know exactly what we're talking about historically. But I'm not so sure that they didn't have like the ability to just wipe an entire continent, because we're talking about two completely separate ways here. Not just the Mayans and the Aztec and the sort of Central America into Mexico itself, but we're talking about now the Amazon jungle, which is completely on the opposite aspect of a completely different continent. And so suddenly it makes that the mystery of when they disappeared even a little bit more spooky, because clearly like an entire swath of thousands of miles didn't just all undergo a drought at the same time, did it? That seems a little strange. That seems sort of anti-scientific and, not in line with the wink, wink climate change narrative. So I don't really know, but it is a good thing to point out that in Central America up into Mexico, we certainly had that happening. But in this case, these guys disappeared and were forgotten about, grown over in the Amazon forest for hundreds of years. Again, going back to 2,000 years ago. So maybe this is where the actual Aztecs and Mayans came from. I mean, I don't know, just kind of spitballing here, but it's an interesting thing when you go back that far. They told us there weren't people here back that far with these massive civilizations, and yet here we are finding new evidence to suggest instead there is. Fire stuff, James. What else you got?
Yeah, I feel like I've been hearing over the last handful of years about more and more of these LiDAR scans, these laser scans, basically, of different parts of the world, that part in particular as well, where they're just finding the foundations of buildings, or they're finding complete buildings that are just beneath the jungle. And that to me is fascinating, because like you said, does that mean that every part of the world almost it has something or had something there at one point or another? That's really fascinating to me to think about that. Like how much of the world was populated at maybe its highest peak.
Yeah, and it seems like if you go back to about 2,000 years ago, the world was teeming with civilizations. And I mean, some of those are very well documented, but some of them, like this one, is completely been lost to history itself. And again, remember, this is 3% of the Amazon they scanned and added plus 20,000 structures to the space. So taking that and extrapolating over the entire Amazon, suddenly it looks like there may have been a flourishing civilization there for who knows how long, and how far back does it go? That's when this gets really, really weird, because nobody would have guessed that. And yet here we are sort of on the cusp of, it seems not just past the unlikely space and into the probable space, which is incredibly wild if you ask me, of course.
Yeah, and then getting to those otherworldly beings, I mean, obviously anyone that's looked into any kind of anomalous experiences, things don't just happen inside modern build or even older buildings. Things don't just happen on roads, modern roads. They happen in nature. They happen out in the woods. They happen, I mean, so much stuff happens out in the forests in different parts of the world. So, and if some of these places have remains of buildings in them, does that mean some of these anomalous experiences are somehow connected to those older buildings that were there or that are there just beneath the ground?
Yeah, I certainly know ancient astronaut theorists would say yes, and that's the whole point of this. And you guys know me, like when I come to those types of theories, I'm like, I'll listen to it with an open mind, but there's a lot of plot holes. And don't forget, everything's narratives anyway. So if you listen close enough, there's going to be plot holes in every narrative. It's just the way it is, because not just missing evidence like we're seeing here, but also people kind of trying to fib all the time. People trying to make up a little bit of a story here or there, or, put them into a space where they don't belong to make them seem like they're a hero when they're not. You go back thousands of years, there's going to be tons of tall tales. Yeah. And so this in particular, I don't know. I don't know where it leads. I don't know where it comes from. And I don't know how big this civilization actually is going to become. And if they're finding this and suggesting 2,000 years ago and up to 3 million people, imagine how far back this could go and how many tens of millions possibly lived in the Amazon for who knows how long. That's when this gets incredibly weird. A couple minutes left if you got anything else, James. I do like the otherworldly beings angle, and of course it is the troubled mind space. And don't forget, that's exactly what it says, just so you can fact check me. It is in the Live Science article down near the bottom. What else you got, James? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm reminded of, and I don't remember who the explorer was and what pyramid it was over in Egypt, but I've heard in a couple of different shows that some of the hieroglyphs or the images that were found in one of the pyramids, at first people thought they were amazing. Then they looked at them and they found errors that indicated maybe that explorer added those to the pyramid to make themselves look more amazing and like a better explorer and make them more famous. Like, I found this. Then it turns out maybe they could have, maybe they made it and they found what they made themselves. So yeah, there's definitely that aspect of everything. But and I've heard of the pyramids having paranormal activity around them as well in Egypt. So anyway, that's a couple of random things there. But happy to sit in with you for this one and see where we go from here. You were the best. Appreciate you very much. You know me, love him. James Salcedo, of course, a dear friend, the glue of the show, the paranormal expert of troubled minds. Go give him a follow. You know where to find that, troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down just a little bit. It is alphabetical. It's under James there. Click that and it'll take you to his link tree, which of course will take you to his website and all the rest of the amazing things he's got going on. That would be salcedoparanormal.com, SALSIDO paranormal.com. And you know where to find it. If you forget that or type it funny, just go to troubledminds.org, click friends, scroll down, follow James. That's it. That's where we start. Now, it is strange to me that not just the aspect that caught my attention was the pentagrams carved into the Amazon from thousands of years ago and a mysterious disappearance of a million plus people civilization. But the other part that we have space brothers or entities, nature spirits, maybe. I don't know. What does it mean? And why are we always finding these things that we were searching for? Whoever resides in the invisible realm. One more time, love to hear your thoughts if you want to be part of the conversation. 702-857-6939. That's 702-857-6939. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. I'd love to hear from you tonight. And look, I don't know
I've got some ideas on who these people might be, and it might be more Avatar-esque than you ever dreamed. We'll talk about that when we get back. One more time, 702-857-6939. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. More with James coming up. Nobody on the line if you guys want to jump in here. Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way.
You're tuning into Troubled Minds, the show where mystery knows no bounds. Stay tuned for revelations that'll keep you questioning the fabric of reality.
Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, we're going deep into the Amazon. 2,000 years ago, supposedly, there was a civilization of up to 3 million people, and they only scanned 3% of the Amazon. They're upgrading the estimate of buildings in that region to be 20,000. Now scale that over the course of the entire Amazon jungle, and we are literally looking at hidden history, because we were told it was the last undiscovered place, the last unexplored and uninhabited ever place on Earth. And now suddenly we're seeing all of this data that refutes that entirely. And that is really why this kind of made my tinfoil tingle. And a couple things specifically is that they mentioned in the notthenature.com article, the paper, but in this is who is it from? This is from Popular Mechanics. A lost civilization carved pentagrams into the Amazon jungle, then vanished without an explanation. Oddly enough, there's not a single photograph of the petroglyphs in here, or the actual buildings. But luckily, in some of these other ones, they do have photographs, so we can take a look at what they mean as part of it. But I mean, this is wild. This is 2,000 years ago, up to 3 million people, and it's only a scan of 3% of the Amazon. So what the hell's going on here? And not to mention the otherworldly beings, sort of a way station of sorts, a place, a meeting spot to get together, not just with humans and maybe differing tribes, but in this case, with entities from somewhere else. What does it mean? Love to hear your thoughts. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. James, anything to add? And we'll go to Ricky on the line. Welcome back if you're there.
Yeah, I'm just thinking here, even if, let's say, there were no actual otherworldly beings, as in other consciousness, again, even if people through their own minds and their own rituals and their own energy perceived that there were, or thought that there were, and had a feeling like, we should move because we're not getting as much contact, or we don't feel like it, then that's still, the end result is still the same, whether there were or there were not these other beings. Which to me is fascinating. You can go either way with that, depending on your, which way you want to lean. And it can still have the same outcome, I think.
Yeah, and the weird part is it really reminds me, and I said we mentioned this, so I'll just drop it now, is that you think of Avatar, right? And how they were so communed and in tune with the forest and the nature spirits, and even communing with Mother Nature herself through a physical interaction, through the tail that kind of wrapped with the trees, and everything has some sort of actual tactile output that they could connect to and actually communicate with Mother Nature herself. Now, I wonder, in this case, I mean, if we're going back 2,000 years, like this was not, oxen and the tools like that. I mean, they probably shaped this with their hands. So, I mean, there's a really, really deep primordial thing here that not only did they really carve these things out of very ancient ways, obviously, but beyond that, there's also evidence to suggest that they planted many of these trees in high concentration because they were fruit-bearing, nut-bearing trees that could feed them. And so when you look at the Amazon, it may have been sort of an old-school terrarium, or not terrarium, a forestation aspect of them building what the Amazon is now by bringing in sort of the old agricultural space of, let's put a bunch of these trees here. We'll live here. They'll grow and we can eat the fruit from the trees. I mean, it is very Garden of Eden-esque when you start to think about what this is and how fast the Amazon grows and how it completely swallowed this civilization whole. pretty wild stuff. You're the best, James. Get back to you momentarily. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Thanks for being patient, friends. Let's go to Ricky. Ricky. Anything is possible, Ricky. How you doing, brother? You're on Troubled Minds with Mike and James. How are you, sir? All yours. Go right ahead.
Good, man. How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Just doing weird stuff by dark of night with my wild and amazing friends. Yeah, living the dream, as I like to say. Yeah. That's it. Go right ahead. What do you got? There's a ton of stuff here, and we could talk about the beings, the Garden of Eden aspect, or as usual, you know me. Take it wherever you like, because there's so many threads here we can kind of chase down.
Yeah, the first thing that popped in my head was like, you were kind of saying where people kind of start looking through history, and then they, and there's big old holes and there's big plot holes and stuff, and then a lot of people they fill in their own prerogative of or narrative to where they want to put stuff, like, oh, this has got to be this. They put it in this little box, and they got to go, okay, this has got to fit here because this is what I think this should be here, and so it's interesting to see, and it's just another moment of everything we were taught in school and history is just wrong. I mean, 99%, I think, at this point is absolutely wrong for for sure Gen X. We were just taught every damn thing in history was wrong. It was sadly, we know Columbus didn't discover America. We now know that the Vikings were here a long time before any of that, and many other civilizations were here. And it's interesting to see down in the rainforest, and there's so much of this stuff. There's still tribes and creatures and stuff they keep finding down there too that they've never seen before. I know not too long ago there was I think a new monkey or something like that just came out that they found, like they've never seen that breed of monkey before. So there's all kinds of creatures and stuff down there. One reason is because it's so dangerous down there. It's easy to die down there. But now with LiDAR stuff, and it's getting better and better where you can actually see some of the stuff and see underneath there, and it's absolutely amazing seeing the possibilities of what it could be there. And like I said, only 3%. That's just scratching the surface there. It's kind of like Go Peppy Teppy, and that's about all they've done really is about 5% of really what they've actually uncovered. So that's what is actually there. So it must have been an ancient, massive society, and who knows what they really used. Everybody wants to put, not everybody, what I'm saying, but a lot of people want to put everybody in a box, and well, there's, these were Stone Age people, or this was this, and so they couldn't do this. And and then you find places like Go Peppy Teppy, and places like that where there's no, wait a minute, there's no reasoning behind this, Machu Picchu and places down there in South America, and I wonder, that there's lots of stories like with the Incans and stuff, talk about a lot of that stuff was there a long time before. I wonder, kind of my curiosity, maybe that was all connected too, it's all on the same continent, so why couldn't it be for that kind of ancient sites and ancient stone, which, again, we can't date stone. We don't know when none of that stone was actually anything. All they can do is date the matter around it, where they find where somebody eats something or something like that. That's about all they can actually really truly date. So the possibility of, Go Peppy Teppy, not Go Peppy, I got that in my head, I guess, Machu Picchu and places like that over there in South America are just, absolute ancient also. So having more places, the more places they find, and I bet I put money that if they actually do scan the rest of it, I bet they're going to find more pyramids and stuff down there too,
Wouldn't surprise me at all. If you look at Teotihuacan and places like that, they used to be just this big hill. And then they started digging and like, wait a minute, there's something down here. And now you look at it, it's clear this entire plateau is just covered with structures, including that massive pyramid that was literally buried and right there in plain sight for everybody to see. So I'm with you. I think we're going to find some pretty astonishing stuff here if they keep it up. And some of this stuff was the reason they searched this area, by the way, is the satellite photos from Google Earth and things like this. So, that's definitely giving us a leg up on where to search. But then even when they went and did the LiDAR here, it astonished them how much more there was than they thought. So it's, even some of the clues we get from satellites and that type of imaging now is going to accelerate when people actually get out there in airplanes and start doing the scans over or with drones or however they're doing it these days. Suddenly this is going to become, dare I suggest the Garden of Eden, like at least that type of imagery or that avatar imagery where we're talking about this primordial nature space where these people lived, sort of in harmony with the forest to the tune of millions of people. I mean, that's incredible to think about, and it's going to accelerate. It's going to be more and more of these places, and who knows what we have to learn. It's an incredible find here. I'm really digging this.
Yeah, and I remember you talked about this a while back, how the scientists and stuff, it kind of, I think I remember this. I hope I do. We're talking about where nature and everything is like Avatar, where it has a connection, through the root system and all the plants and everything, and the possibility where, truly they can communicate with each other. And, which, it was one of the things like, man, now what can you eat now? You can't eat anything. Everything's alive and living. And, but it's amazing to see what they can find in there. And whenever they actually take the time to start, going through there and actually, excavating and actually finding, boots on the ground, which I know that's just going to take time and money. And, it's going to be interesting to see what they can actually find down there though. And hopefully they don't destroy it or do like they've done with Göbekli Tepe, uncover 5%. And they're like, well, that's good enough. Y'all bring in tourist dollars in. We don't need to see what the rest of this shows us. It's such a shame to see places like that. That we could learn so much as a society, and the possibilities of knowledge could absolutely blow everybody's mind. And they're like, nope, we can't do that. We don't want people to have knowledge and that's beyond their recognition. We want to keep everybody in this dark, seems like,
Yeah, totally. And even in this case, I found the line when I was reading it to start here. I just kind of speed read and burn through a bunch of stuff. But in the paper itself, they mentioned somewhere in here that there's some of it they haven't disclosed yet. Like they're kind of hiding stuff because it's, why? Like, I don't know. Like, this is the type of stuff that's like exciting as hell. And, the more information that gets out, the more people will study it, the more interest it'll get. But then also they're saying because it's, encroaching on indigenous lands and things like this. And, the things they always use. And again, I'm not saying we should just burn everything down because we find something. But it is interesting that they are even doing some gatekeeping with this right off the bat, which is a little bit strange to me because what did they find? I mean, maybe they did find these pentagrams and it kind of leaked out and then everybody redacted it. I mean, who knows, just sort of a food for thought here. What the hell are you actually hiding? I mean, we're talking about a civilization we know nothing about. So at this point, the more information we get, the better. And for some reason, they're already gatekeeping right from jump, which doesn't make any sense.
No. And it's interesting, it'd be another moment in time where possibly that like these symbols and stuff that everybody has a meaning of now or have a concept of and that has changed it has happened throughout history and so maybe there's a possibility for we could see that. But I mean, I could see that with the indigenous land. I mean, it might be getting close to some of the ones that really hadn't never been around anybody, and so it would really be dangerous. Like we would probably, you almost had to go to war with the indigenous people there, kind of thing situation, possibly to get in there. Some of them are very, they're living the same way they've lived for 10,000 years down there. Some of them are, and all of a sudden you start coming there with bulldozers and chainsaws and all kinds of stuff. There's going to be it'd be kind of like the Avatar movie, you know. It'd be a real big pushback. And,
except it's this planet, not theirs. It's our planet.
yeah, absolutely. You know, it really would be. It would be like the movie, you know. But yeah, it's curious. I'm curious too. I'm with you. I'm like, what are they already covering up? You know, and maybe, you know, especially with everything going on with the, you know, the disclosure, you know, maybe there is some alien stuff down there. Who knows? I mean, like, there's all kinds of stories, especially Incan history and Mayan, and you know, the creator gods and stuff like that to come down there, and it was, you know, very interterrestrial type sounding stuff going on. So, as always, anything is possible, you know.
Well said. Anything is possible, indeed. And does it surprise you that these otherworldly beings ended up as part of this article and part of a partial quote by the lead archaeologist? Does that shock you at all? I mean, it seems like this is ubiquitous in ancient history as well as modern history too. So it didn't shock me per se, but it did surprise me a little bit that the term was used as otherworldly beings, not, you know, sky gods or whatever, gods of the forest, like you might expect an archaeologist to say. He literally said otherworldly beings, at least from the article. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder, you know. Of course, you know, if you get people talking and you get interest, you know, then that's how you get funding for, you know, absolute you know, more LiDAR and more, you know, boots on the ground. So maybe, you know, with all the disclosure stuff is a good way of, you know, piquing people's interest and making people talk about it. You know, it could be on that narrative, like, you know, but like I said, it could be some, you know, who knows what's down there. It is the Amazon rainforest is just teeming with life that we have most people has never ever seen, and it'd be interesting to see what they could find and what, you know, if they're actually able to go down there and see. And I guess time will tell, but it is interesting though.
Amen. Well said. I'm looking forward to them actually kind of doing some actual archaeology down there. But the problem is that it's incredibly remote. I mean, you know, you can take a plane and fly over, but then to get an expedition down there, there's no roads. Like, good luck. You're going to have to, you know, airlift some people in there, and an extremely remote region of the world that may be inhospitable to life, like you described. Maybe there's lions and tigers and bears of the Amazon down there. So, like, who knows? And that becomes really the hard part of this, is you can't just simply snap your fingers and we're doing archaeology. It's like this is a huge endeavor just to get people down there, boots on the ground, like you said. It's incredible. But let's hope they do it sooner rather than later, because I'm getting old. Let's find some cool stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, they would have to, you know, maybe some military helicopters and drop some stuff where they could clear out a path, you know, and they had to open up a little airport type, you know, section right there. You know, it would take some sure enough major work. You know, building a road all the way to there, sure enough would take some work. I mean, so yeah, to actually get people there and getting work done, and you know, you see some of them other ancient older sites and stuff where people are working, and it's so primitive to the point, you know, what they had to do, and you know, just barely building roads enough for little jeeps and stuff to get through there, and a lot of just manual labor and hands on. So, but yeah, I'm with you. You know, we need a lot of that stuff. It's always fascinates me, you know, all that stuff. I wish that, like, you know, places like that, like, hey, we need to invest in some of these places and learn some of this history, and instead of investing in some of the things that we do invest in the world. But it would be more, I think it'd be more beneficial for sure if we did.
Amen. And I'll keep an eye on this as this develops, and hopefully we find some really wild stuff, because I'm expecting that's going to be the case. You're the best, brother. Appreciate you very much. Thank you for the call. Thank you for the raid. Thank you for doing the fire stuff before the show, the professional courtesy, ending it right when we start and raiding over. I appreciate you so much. And fantastic work to booking all the guests and stuff. I'm keeping an eye on what you're doing, and I'm telling you what, fantastic work. Keep up the good work. Always a pleasure. Thanks for the call. You have a great night, my man.
Yes, sir. You too. Appreciate you, and appreciate James. Always, he's been there every time so far.
Nice, James, the glue of the show. Shows plural. You're the best, Ricky. Yeah. Appreciate you, man. Have a great night. 702-857-6939. Sorry to rush off. Want to get Daryl in here. She's been waiting a minute. I'm calling this Where the Map Goes Quiet. Meeting places for otherworldly beings. Daryl in New York. Thanks for being patient. We've got about 6-7 minutes, and if you got more than that, you're welcome to stay after. Thanks for being patient. You're on Troubled Minds with Mike and James. How are you? Unmute, and it's all yours. Go right ahead. Daryl in New York. Test 1, 2. Daryl, are you there? Unless you jumped in accidentally. I don't think that's the case. Test 1, 2. All right, James, anything on what Ricky said there? Again, not just you're amazing, of course, but and thanks for anchoring that show too and helping him out with all the stuff he's doing over there. But anything on what he said with regard to this ancient civilization?
Yeah, it is fascinating. I did hear somewhere with in the case of Göbekli Tepe, I probably can't say that word either very well. One of the reasons why they supposedly stopped was they're waiting for better technology to discover more, which it's one of those reasons where I can imagine, I can see that, I can understand that, but also it's a really good reason to use that doesn't require any proof of what you're saying either, to give that reason. But yeah, just there's so many animals in that part of the world that are, if I'm not mistaken, are like deadly, like snakes and different things. So it is it's pretty dangerous to be in there, even if you're not trying to make roads or do whatever, if you're in that part of the world. And yeah, I'm always fascinated by the possible connections between, again, I mean, because we have not, we don't know what's under there, and it could be something that would completely change the way we think of, or what we think of as what was possible in the past when it comes to otherworldly beings. What if that is something physical that was here, and they have, mummified one or something, or they've made a statue of one that is like, there's no arguing that, oh, that's a human, but they find something that's like, no, that's not human, in one of these temples or these pyramids. It's a fascinating idea to think of, and does make me wonder when they sort of stop or they slow down, or they don't want to disclose all the information. There's always a little part of me that's like, I wonder about that. Why is that happening? And there's all the usual logical explanations, but also, I mean, if it's something that big, I could totally understand governments being involved, saying no, that's not going anywhere.
Yeah, agreed. And the other thing that came to mind when I was thinking of this, I was, because you brought up the funerary practices, maybe there's going to be some really fascinating stuff. I do wonder, you go back up a couple thousand years and maybe even deeper than that in their prehistory of this civilization, were they mummifying people? Was it sort of parallel to Egyptian stuff? Like how much of this actually really maybe came from there? I mean, Thor Heyerdahl proved that you could come across the Atlantic Ocean on a reed raft. So so the Kon-Tiki voyages, look that up if you don't know anything about that. It's an incredible story. And so there were some suggestions that people from ancient Egypt and the Mediterranean thousands and thousands of years ago actually came and populated these areas of the South America, Central America, and even parts of North America, a la Florida, things like this. So look, I don't know. I don't really know those answers, but I do know when I look at this, not only does it remind me of the idea of sort of crop circles a little bit. You look at some of these things that they're very geometric and buried into the Amazon here. But beyond that, there's just so many themes kind of flowing through my head, including that Garden of Eden, the fact that maybe the Amazon jungle was not a natural space. It was planted by maybe thousands of years of a civilization living there. I mean, and there's evidence to suggest that right off the bat here. So I don't know. It's weird, man. It's weird. And that's the wonderful part about this is we don't know anything about it. So kind of all the speculation is open right now, but it is also strange how they're hiding stuff right off the bat, which didn't sit well with me, but you know me, I'm wear a tinfoil hat. I'm known to wear a tinfoil hat from time to time. Got about a minute left. Thanks for being patient, Algo. We'll go to you at the top of the break there after we come back. And when Daryl gets it figured out, I don't know what's going on with her with the technology. Hey, there are bad days with the technology. But anything on that, James? Tons of stuff here to talk about and think about.
Yeah, the shapes are always fascinating to me, and why the shapes are made and how they're made and what they're made of, whether it's stone or different things. Even with one of the things that's always been fascinating to me about crop circles, and I wonder if it's a similar thing here in these forests, we just never hear about it because everything is covered by forest, is there's anomalies of people seeing orbs or lights or getting weird feelings when they're in or around crop circles. So if that's happening with just crops, what can you do with stone and rock that have energies in them as well? And what kind of experiences could people have now because of all that they're not even aware that the rock is there until now with all these scans?
Yeah, exactly. And so who knows? I'm looking forward to it. And I'm going to guess, I'm going to go out on a limb with Ricky there and say they're probably going to find pyramids there. Like these things, these ancient structures that mirror other parts of the world around the same or similar time frames. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if they find any of that stuff, or let's say big chunks of that stuff. Many of those structures. It wouldn't surprise me a single bit. We're going to keep looking. We're going to keep, like I said, keep our ear to the ground on this as it develops. But it's just brand new. The study hit it and was released at the end of July. So here we are, early August, talking about it. Love to hear your thoughts. Again, I'm calling this, what is this called? Where the Map Goes Quiet. Meeting places for otherworldly beings, talking about an ancient civilization in the Amazon jungle. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Be right back. We got a bunch of people coming up. The Mike algorithm. We got, looks like Daryl's going to call in. Jen's on the line. Herschel, Matzell. Got a full slate here. Thanks for being patient, friends. Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. Do not go anywhere.
This is Troubled Minds. Your host, Michael Strange, the master of the mysterious, is here to guide you through the shadows of the unexplained.
Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. All the places, all the things, yada, 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 yada. Troubledminds.org. Right there, you get the whole website. You get all the stuff, all the podcasts of these friends, cast and family and friends that make this show go. Troubledminds.org/friends. Tonight, we're talking an ancient civilization. An as yet unknown ancient civilization that was recently discovered in the Amazon jungle in the Southwest. Okay, so this is, again, sort of opposite of where the Mayans and the Incas and the Aztecs, where they were sort of doing their thing in the northern, more central Mexico part of this. It's incredible. And literally they're saying 2,000 years ago is the estimate here, and that up to 3 million people lived there at one time. Wild. And we're supposed to, we've been led to believe, and it was the ongoing theory that the Amazon itself was never actually sort of conquered by people. It was the last, one of the most final wildernesses that has never been conquered by mankind. And now we're seeing that 2,000 years ago, they found a way to do it. And some of the evidence is compelling enough to suggest that maybe they planted a lot of these trees in certain areas to feed themselves. It was not a natural thing of just nature doing its thing. They were planting fruit trees and nut trees to feed themselves in these civilizational aspects in areas. So, hey, look, I don't know. There's suddenly you start to look at the tree distribution of what's happening down there, and maybe you can find by what trees are planted where that lead you to some of these large civilizations. Thanks for being patient, friends. James, anything to add? And then we'll go to I think Daryl's on the line. I think Daryl's up next.
No, just looking forward to all the calls.
You are the best. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Is Daryl there? Yes, she is. Okay, let's go to Daryl in New York. Thanks for being patient. You're on Troubled Minds. How are you? Thanks for jumping through some hoops. Go right ahead.
Hi, Michael. Great show. Great topic. You know, I love these topics. I think that's so interesting. About what you said about them planting trees. I've been listening to so many different people right now, my lunch break, Jared Boosters, these people that are doing a lot of research. I kind of have to trust them because I'm not going to be able to, explore all these places. And they have pictures, they have photographs, and they're doing these deep dives. Now, one of them has come up with this theory that we had a primordial forest, both in America as well as in Europe, and that has been kind of systematically, simultaneously cut down to put up farms and an industrial type of farming instead of this supposedly self-sustaining forest that was planned. Even the explorers that went across the country said it was more like a garden than a wild, savage forest. Looked very planned, and everything that was there seemed to be self-sustaining for a civilization to just help themselves. It was like free food, and all the food, basically you just, it was like meant to be eaten and then, reprocessed into mulch, and, the animals that would, fertilize it, and the bees and the birds and whatever. It was, a real food chain, and it was planned. And some of these trees had been there forever. It wasn't like they were just planted. It was, this was a system that was in use for a long time. If you looked at the size of the trees that were cut down, let's say, to make room for industrial farming, etc. And it didn't just happen in one country. It happened all over the world. It seemed to be like a communication system. It was very, very functional somehow. How could this happen here and not happen there? How can there be pyramids in one country and not in the other? They're all over the place. How could it not be? It's not a coincidence. It couldn't be. None of this is a coincidence. So as soon as we seem to find something, there's some society of the preservation of history that shows up and doesn't let anybody explore any further because they have to make sure that we don't know, or they get all the spoils, of what's underneath everything. Why is there pyramids everywhere? Why are there tunnels everywhere? Why are there underground some sort of cities everywhere? Necropolises underneath the streets. This is not just in one country or Turkey, it's everywhere. We have tunnels. So obviously this planet has seen global societies. I don't think Atlantis was limited to one place. I think it was everywhere. And I'm just saying, what if the elite or somebody is able to survive every cataclysm and pick up where things left off as soon as something bad happens and then recreate themselves, like let the earth heal and then suddenly repopulate everything. This is what I've been experiencing and thinking about. So, of course, there's stuff over there. And apparently there's a lot of fortunes to be made. What if we found gold everywhere? What would happen to the price of gold? What would happen to the economy? What if there is gold everywhere to be just picked up in the Amazon? Like everywhere you look and dig, every pyramid that you dig up, there's going to be fortunes and riches beyond our wildest imaginations. What happens then? And who gets that?
It's a hell of a point that there are real world considerations here. And what if they find the legendary city of El Dorado buried in one of these old civilizations? And like you said, maybe the structures are seen are made of solid gold. What would that do to the global gold economy? It could clearly not put a little dent. It would really turn upside down a bunch of things. And I'm not suggesting there's a Fort Knox everywhere out there buried underground in some ancient civilization, but where do we find these actual spaces of gold in one place? I mean, you look at King Tut's tomb; it was full of gold. So even if it wasn't sort of a natural aspect of the area itself, massive gold mines or whatever, they certainly seem to collect it and bring it together for a great many reasons. And so who knows? There are true real world considerations when it comes to that stuff with the economic aspect of the modern day of cooking the books. And certainly you can't uncook the books or, well, it's pandemonium, right? Or something like that.
Right. Apparently I think there's so much gold on the planet, but they wanted to make it scarce to increase their holdings, perhaps. Maybe if they're holding the majority of it, then they maintain their, superiority and their control. I'm not sure, I mean, they have to be able to survive. They're trying to be immortal. obviously they have some knowledge from the past. You know, there's been resets. I think there was a reset. Jen just said something the other night that we've had the end of the world after a big cataclysm. And it doesn't take long for us to be living in the Stone Age. If we lost all our technology, how many people would be around to remember how we did stuff, you know? How would we recreate all the technology we have today if it just decided, if we just couldn't use electricity for another 50 years before it took to get it back? You know, even with the people with knowledge, how would they get back online? You know, what I think they've had the internet. I think the internet was around way back. I think they've had ways to communicate instantly all over the planet. It looks like it. It seems like it, you know? And again, every time they look, there's not only are there buildings, but under the buildings are tunnels and cities, or some sort of necropolis with lots of, you know, tunnels, miles and miles of tunnels. Apparently, you could go from, somebody said they went from New York to Florida all underground without using the Amtrak. So I don't know, you know, they weren't using Amtrak. So I'm just saying there's definitely something. Oh, when somebody said, how could they build these tunnels so deep without electricity? Now we're assuming they didn't have electricity. You know, we can't date them because we don't know. But who does that? Well, ants do that, right? Ants can do stuff and dig in the dark. What about these ant people? And apparently the word for ant is Anu. And I forget what Naki was, but whatever it was, it's Anunnaki. Maybe there are ant people and other beings that live under the ground. Just saying. Anyway.
Hey, in the Southwest Native Americans, there is a tradition where they have ant people that live under the ground. That's a real thing.
Right, right. So who knows, you know, and maybe they built all these underground cities. They would know how to do that. They have the technology. Maybe they do it without any tools because they're that, you know, skillful with their whatever ant-like qualities that they have. It would answer quite a few questions, wouldn't it?
Amen. Absolutely right. Fire stuff. Thank you for being patient and jumping through the hoops. What else you got? Go ahead.
Just that. I think, you know why women should not marry archaeologists?
No.
Because they'll date anything.
Indeed. I love it. Fantastic. Got another one?
I think I'm done.
I appreciate you very much. Thanks again. Always a pleasure. Thanks for calling. Thanks for contributing. Have a fantastic night. We'll talk to you soon.
You too.
Thank you. Daryl in New York. You know, you love a good friend for a long time. And very talented, obviously, the cosmic comic of troubled minds. Official, by the way. Official. Hashtag official. And go give a follow, troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down just a little bit. It is alphabetical. It says follow Daryl right there. Click that. It'll take you to her YouTube channel. She's multi-talented. Not only is she a great singer in English and French, she's the cosmic comic, as I said. She's got some stuff on Morgellons and some paranormal stuff on her channel. Please go give her a follow. Go join the Discord. Come say hi to Daryl and come hang out with these amazing people. Like I said, I cut people off and stuff in a really unnatural way as part of the show. But these people, I promise you, I've known many of them for a very long time now in different capacities. And they are way more incredible than they are on this show, even though on this show they are hot fire. So come meet Daryl and all the rest of the amazing people that are part of this. Troubledminds.org. Click the Discord link on top. James, anything to add to that? And we'll go to Algorithm.
Just that it is amazing what we found underground. It does seem to be everywhere. And I mean, again, not just cities, but just entire buildings, or what would be a building, but it's basically just the inside of a building underground, which is always fascinating to me. So yeah, great call. And great call so far.
Absolutely. And fantastic joke. I had never heard that one. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Today we're talking this civilization. I'm calling it Where the Map Goes Quiet. Meeting places for otherworldly beings. Let's go to Mike in Colorado. Algorithm, what's up, brother? You're on Troubled Minds. How are you tonight? Welcome back, and go right ahead.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity and interesting topic.
Thank you. Glad to have you.
I think for me, I can just say Control-Alt-Delete, because I think if people know what Control-Alt-Delete used to do to a computer, it seems from everything I've experienced in the past 15 years that simulation theory is probably the most accurate, and those structures that they found, even buildings that we say we can't build today and pyramids and all these things, seem to be civilizations clearly gone by with no explanation other than resets. The latest probably being about 1861 in my estimation. But what I find interesting about that and simulation theory with that is we're here now dealing with our reality, and media and all of these things want to continually bring us back to things that have long gone by that we can't do anything about. And even if we knew everything about them, it wouldn't change our current here and now. And that's what I find most interesting is I love your show and I love Woo and I like people that talk about these things. But let's say we found out exactly what they were doing then in the Amazon and the technology that they took to build it. I don't think that would get us on board any better than we're doing right now. And I don't think it would help our future.
And I love where your mind's at here. And it mirrors what Daryl said too about the gold. So if there, let's say again, out on a limb here, up the if cliff, way up high, but if there was some sort of actual ancient technology that is free energy, sort of a Tesla type of energy like they've suggested with the pyramids. I'm not saying it's real. I'm saying, what if we find that? Certainly, if we found the city of El Dorado and everything in the Amazon was just gold, gold, gold everywhere you looked, it would turn the world economy upside down. But the same thing goes with energy. The same thing goes with technology. The same thing goes with a lot of these things that we're always talking about in terms of what's covered up and why in that artificial scarcity. It's a world we live in, and it's phony and it's fake, and we recognize it and we talk about it. So I don't think it's a misfire to bring that up, because I think you're onto something here.
Yeah, and I go to Coral Gables in Florida. Sorry about that. And there are eyewitness reports of technology that he used to build Coral Gables that totally could transform our entire world. But if you've seen the guy that made the hydrogen fuel cell for his car in the late 70s, and Tucker, and even free energy that's now available today that guys make in their little garages, I don't think the force that's in charge right now is going to not kill you if you figure that out. I'm pretty certain that when you do find a revolutionary technology or an abundance of gold that could crash the world banks, that you're not going to be able to spend it, because it seems that we have clandestine agencies everywhere, way more than I ever imagined in numbers, in all over the realm, that want this place to be a prison planet, maybe not prison planet, it's not the right word, but it's an energy harvest of humans. We're domesticated and they harvest our energy. And so I find it fascinating that these things exist. I do wonder if simulation isn't the real thing, but in the meantime, until we can grab our energy back and not give it to them, I don't know where we're headed with these things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Like how much of this really does matter. To add to what you said, there are some things we can learn from our past. There's no doubt about that. However, like you're describing, are we going to find some kind of actual breakthrough that will change the way we live today? I'm not so sure that's the case. It'll make for a plethora of troubled mind shows in the future. But again, we're just kind of riffing here and talking about ideas and whatnot. And again, what Daryl brought up with the gold and you with the energy and some of this old technology, you're right. There are bottlenecks in place, and there are things that they will not let us do, and borders we cannot cross, because it's been determined that the power brokers in place will continue to be the power brokers in place by penalty of death. And I think that's pretty well proven over the years. You look at the wars and all the things. You want me to do a whole paper up on that, I'll do it. But it's there. There's a lot of information and data to suggest that's the case. And kudos to you for bringing it up. I missed that entirely. And maybe this is really where this will head us. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see what happens, right?
Well, sure. And I'd say for anybody out there who does pursue these things, and if you do find an energy source you can harness, it's not your job to give it to the world. If you find it, it's your job to use it for yourself. The guy that you're pretty familiar with Coral Gables, I'm sure.
Yep.
He made that, and he didn't tell anybody what he was doing, why he was doing it. He didn't go and say, okay, look, you can do this too. He did none of that stuff. He just made it and it was his, and who knows why. And I think that's the way to go about it. As much as that sounds selfish, it's really not. It's self-preservation. And I look at the natural world is mostly my teacher. So self-defense is an inherent function in this realm. A rose has thorns for that reason. If you find something really incredible that makes your life free and easy, maybe share with a couple of friends in your family, but
only people you trust, people that won't out you.
If you think you need to change the world with it, you're going to be a footnote in history and it's not going to do any good. So, but I will tell you the one thing I love about your show is that you can get an article and it can lead to all these amazing conversations with all these great people who join you. So thank you for that.
And thank you for being part of it. Fire stuff as always, and bringing angles I didn't think of. That's the whole point. I'm going to think of a lot of things, but I'm just me. I'm me, you're you, but together we're us. And that's a powerful thing. Appreciate you very much. Thanks for staying in here. Thanks for being patient, and just thanks for being you. And Friday works best for me, if that's okay.
Okay. Yep, absolutely. We'll do that.
Okay. So I will be on Friday night on Algorithm Show, and we'll be talking about stuff. So we'll have an extra Troubled Minds / Algorithm Show on Friday night, where we get together and talk, and looking forward to it. Let me know if you need me to bring anything prepared. If not, I'll just show up with some beer and kick it with my bud, Mike.
Just yourself, my friend.
You got it. You got it. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks. Take care. Take care, James.
Thanks for the invite.
You as well.
Looking forward to that. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Thanks to Algorithm, troubledminds.org / friends. Click that. Scroll down a little bit. It says follow Algorithm. It's alphabetical. He's the first one on the list. Go give Mike a follow on all the places, and he's doing great work over there. And that's the point of it. People talking to each other. And look at all the great angles that have come out of this that I didn't even consider. That's the point. That's why people talking to each other is so paramount. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Trying to rush through this to get everybody in. Matthew in California, you're on Troubled Minds. How are you, sir? We got about 4.5 minutes left, 5 minutes, and then you're welcome to stay after the break if you got any wrap around. But welcome. Thanks for being patient. How are you, sir? And go right ahead.
Hey, Mike. Good show. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to call. I wanted to talk about this. I like this kind of stuff. Good articles, and I hope we do find more stuff with these the ground penetrating radars and stuff like that, or the LiDAR. So it's good to find these kind of things. But I was talking about some, maybe not the same place, but some of the more like these ancient civilizations, and the things that we don't know about this one that we just recently found. But let's talk about what we do know. And so some of these places, a lot of this information that I'm getting from is from these Zachariah Stinson books. So this is coming from Zachariah Stinson. It's the 4th book in the series of the Earth Chronicles, and it's called The Lost Realms. And it's talking about how in the beginning there was a god called Varakoka, and he arranged 4 brothers and 4 sisters to roam the land and bring a civilization to the people. And in all these stories, it talks about how the god gave him this, like some stories it's a staff, some stories it's a wand, but in some stories it's a splendorous scepter. And these peoples went out with that golden staff and found the place to mark for their cities. And so how the tale of Cusco came. Now, Cusco was the capital of the Incan capital. And that's how it was formed. When one of the guys, Marco Capac, he struck a stone with a magical staff, and it spoke to him. And it selected him as the ruler of the kingdom. And this is through that golden staff. And lots of stories with that. Lots of stories with either a golden staff or a scepter or a wand that was made to mark the land where the cities were built. So let's talk about that. What if these cities that were being built, or this one that we found, we talk about ley lines, places of power. Maybe there is something going on there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. That type of thing in particular, and if you see, you're watching the graphics that I put up. I was thinking that too when I put this together. It did remind me of the idea of crop circles and ley lines and sort of that aspect, and not just these otherworldly beings, but maybe this is a power spot that for some reason decayed. Again, we've got a mysterious civilization that was millions of people supposedly that just snap your fingers and they're all gone. I mean, surely they all didn't just die at the same time. That's ridiculous. There's no known cataclysm there. They say a drought and climate change, but yeah, fire stuff. And I think you're got another fire angle here with Viracocha and how this looks. But and also he came to mind when I was putting this together for that exact reason, and as part of the primordial nature spirit or the communing with nature itself. He was certainly one of the catalysts in the Central and South American mythologies. 100%.
Yeah, I wonder about that, the places. And I wonder too about what if these people, we think these people, and same thing with the Egyptians. We always were told in our history books that these people were like primitive Neanderthals and they didn't really know anything. But here come to find out, they were very religious. They were very spiritual. They had practices and rituals and all these things. And so I wonder if my theory, and this is my theory of what I believe, is that these people were able to ascend like divinely, and that's why they all disappeared, kind of like a some sort of like maybe like a rapture moment, like they were able to ascend and leave this earth behind. And that's why they all left at once. That's just my personal opinion, no evidence for it, but I wonder if they were just so connected to the gods that they were able to go to a higher dimension
or something. Very Atlantis, like Daryl brought up and like Ricky brought up too. I mean, they're like, who knows? Like, this is the type of stuff that if they vanished and they're gone, there's got to be some actual way to track that down. And I don't know those answers, but I do know that it's fascinating to me to sort of learn about these new mysterious places. And this is certainly one of them. We're kind of at that weird spot. So if you got more, you're welcome to stay. If you're finished, final thought and wrap it up. Appreciate you very much. Thanks for jumping in here.
I would like to stay. I want to talk more about some more cities, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Thank you.
Of course. No, thank you. You were the best. Matt's out. templeoftheowl.com. Check out his podcast. That's where you find him and all the great work he's doing. And we're going to hear more from him when we come back. Viracocha is a great way into this. And we're talking about, I'm calling this where the map goes quiet, meeting places for otherworldly beings. And of course, we're talking about this place, this pre-colonial earthwork in Southwest Amazonia, where they found 20,000 plus in 3% of the Amazon through LiDAR scans. And I'm telling you, it's a wild thing to consider. And that's why we're talking about it. So what do you know? How weird does this get? How far back does it go? And does it surprise you that we were told that the Amazon itself was sort of the final vestige of conquering nature? It had never been inhabited directly, except in some sparse spots. We've talked about this in the past quite a lot. It's been covered quite a lot historically. However, now we're talking 2,000 years ago, somewhere between 1 and 3 million people, and they've upgraded the number of buildings or structures they found to plus 20,000. What the hell's going on? Be right back. More Troubled Minds coming up. I'm Michael Strange. Catch you on the other side of the break. We've got Jen in Missouri, Herschel Sterling. We got Jacob, Harsher Boy. More from Matt Sal and your calls as well. Don't go anywhere. See you on the other side of the break. Be right back. Which button do I push? Oh, yeah, this one first.
You're tuning into Troubled Minds, the show where mystery knows no bounds. Stay tuned for revelations that'll keep you questioning the fabric of reality.
3%. That's all we looked at. Something down there is still counting the other 97. We thought we were reading it. It was reading back. They took some of it off the map, not to lose it, to keep it. You are looking at the message. You have always been looking at the message. Nothing down here was ever lost. You just weren't the one it answered to.
to Troubled Minds, all the places, all the things, yada yada, troubledminds.org. Click all the stuff, follow all our friends. Tonight we're talking, like this is a wild thing, right? We were told that the Amazon jungle itself had been unconquered. It was one of the final places that humans had not really encroached on, the primordial wilderness per se. But it turns out that's not the truth at all. New LiDAR scans have suggested that a civilization has been found that's 2,000 years old and harbored somewhere between 1 and 3 million people. And that's scanning 3% of the entire Amazon. So what the hell else is out there, and how far back does this go? Like I said, it's got very much Garden of Eden vibes. It's got very much, Avatar vibes, the Viracocha, as Matt was talking about. This is a wild space. It is the frontier of not just archaeology, anthropology, and how far back does it go in terms of these primordial nature spirits that I love to think about and talk about. But then what about the layers? I mean, how long has this civilization been here? We see the topological aspect of it with the LiDAR scans. But what if it's been built on over tens of thousands of years and these people have been here forever? I'm just saying. Spitballing, thinking about this a little differently. And what about their funerary practices? Do you think it's possible they actually mummified people just like the Egyptians? The plot thickens. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Matt Sal, back to you. Viracocha and everything else you got. Thanks for being patient. Welcome back. Go right ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mike. I did want to talk about that. And I'm talking about how, we don't know this new place that they're finding. Obviously, no one's been there yet to archaeologically discover it. But I'm using references of Incans and the Mayans to kind of describe maybe what we might find when we do find this, if we do go into the city, and how these people were spiritually and they're very much in tune with nature and the gods. So back to I'm talking about Cusco, the ancient, the Incan capital, and talking about how first it was found by using a golden staff or a wand from a god to find the site, and then how they built it. So when the Spaniards entered Cusco, an Incan capital, they found a metropolis with some 100,000 dwelling houses surrounding a royal religious center of magnificent temples, palaces, gardens, and marketplaces, situated between the two streams at an elevation of 11,500 feet. The city was divided into 12 wards. Now check this out. It was divided into 12 wards, a number that puzzled the Spaniards. It was arranged in an oval. And the first ward, where they started to build the city with that gold wand, it was called the Kneeling Terrace. It was located in the slope of the northwest. That's where the first Incans were building those palaces. All the wards bore picturesque names: the Speaking Place, the Terrace of Flowers, the Sacred Gate, and so on. So I think it's interesting that they separated their city into 12, they called wards or 12 sections. Each one was named kind of cool. I wonder what those all mean. The Sacred Gate, those types of things. I'm talking about how they were very religious in the way they built these cities. And one of the palaces at the time, it was a palace that they all worshipped this giant, they worshipped idols. And they had this giant thing in there called the Holy of Holies. It was this giant sun-shaped disc of gold. And they worshipped this idol, this sun disc made out of gold. And of course, it's not there anymore. But in this shrine, then they sacrificed animals to it, to the gods. But another thing that's weird is that when the Spaniards came there, to them, the Mayans, gold wasn't worth anything. It wasn't worth money. It had no monetary value. What they believed is that it was crystallized liquid secretions from the gods, like the gods' tears and the gods' blood. And to them, the gold was everywhere. It was already out in the water. So they used that to plate their houses and plate their temples and build these giant shrines, these giant things, idols of worship. And everything was made out of gold. Their forks, their plates, their knives, everything they had was made out of gold. They didn't think of it as money. Now, when the Spaniards came, of course, they saw all the money. So they took all that gold, they put it in they filled up this giant palace with all their gold. So all their plates and forks and all their little animal trinkets and all their holy relics made out of gold, medallions, who knows what else. We saw like the clocks, like the Mayan clock, made, sundials and stuff like that made out of gold. They threw it in there. They put it on a boat. They took it back to England, and they smelted it all down into gold ingots for the king and queen. And what trips me out about that is, what did we lose that we can never get back?
Yeah, totally. Think of like the Mask of Agamemnon or something. Imagine if they melted that down. That type of stuff, like literal, the past of our archaeological space that may have been passed down generations and hundreds of years, and even further than we ever would like to dream. And in this case, we're talking thousands of years. Like we were told that the Incans and the Mayans and the Aztecs were, hundreds of years old, but not thousands of years old. And so suddenly this is turning on its head with this. And then, of course, like I said, that link to the Kon-Tiki expeditions of Thor Heyerdahl. And maybe this all came from the ancient East anyway. Maybe this is all the connected space of Atlantis of the mind, right? These ancient places that were all over, as Daryl very smartly pointed out, that maybe there wasn't one Atlantis, there were dozens, and they were all over the damn world. And maybe that's why it's sort of a worldwide mind space still to this day. I don't know. Just a thought.
Yeah, man, good show. I hope we find more. I hope we find more stuff with the LiDAR. I hope we go looking for it. I hope we can find some stuff that answers those questions that we have. What were they doing? What gods were they worshiping, and how? And then also don't forget the LiDAR stuff that was happening when the underground cities in Egypt, under the pyramids. So let's continue doing that kind of stuff. Let's look for it and hopefully find some good stuff. Thanks, Mike. Good show.
Amen, brother. We appreciate the call. The fire stuff, as always, you know me, love him. That is, again, templeoftheowl.com. Matt's Owl affectionately. Matthew in California. Fire takes. And Viracocha was part of this because you know me in my primordial nature spirit fascination. I think there's this idea that goes back deep to deep time. And we've been worshiping these same entities forever. A whole nother show for another time. We'll talk about it then. But Viracocha came to mind as part of this. Kukulkan and some of these entities, they were space lizards. These were things that were kind of moving in and out of our space and into other realms per se. But anyway, I digress. Thank you for all the great calls tonight. We're going to go one more segment tonight to get everybody in. So please make sure we don't go way too long. Let's get everybody in here, but we'll go an extra 30 minutes to make sure we get everybody in tonight. Thanks for all the enthusiasm for the conversations. Jen coming up next. I'll give you guys the order. Jen's up next. Then we got Herschel. Then it's Jacob, and it's Kelly, or Kelly, then Jacob. I don't know. We'll coin flip. But hang tight. We will get to all of you. I'll go an extra 30 minutes to make sure we get everybody in. James, anything to add? And then we'll go to Jen on the line in Missouri.
Yeah, I think all those beings that, whatever you want to think of them, those could be the otherworldly beings, and there could be others. I mean, again, these places haven't been excavated yet, so wouldn't it be amazing to find out there were otherworldly beings that we haven't even heard about yet? But great call so far. I'm looking forward to the rest.
You were the man. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Just like this, let's go to the phone lines. Jen in Missouri, the Arcane Observer. You're on Troubled Minds. How are you tonight? All yours. Go right ahead.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Okay. So, the entire system we're living in, the environment we're living in, it seems like it's designed to just take in information, like any kind of information that's available, everything. And it's that all biological life forms are arranged to not just communicate with other biological life forms, but they're communicating also with the chemical invisible system through, like with humans, the endocrine system, and a great deal of communication on an electromagnetic level, between all the different species and root systems, and everything that is behind the matter that causes it to move and communicate in the system we have. If we do have a situation where, and it appears to be the case, if you look at the Mayans and you look at Easter Island and you look at any other example from around the entire planet about how there's a constant cyclical, cyclical experience occurring where people have to retell a story about what happened, and they want to hold on to that oral tradition. That's because the world hasn't ended yet. Because all of the information we're communicating to each other all the time, like everything we've heard in our current history strand, is from this era. It's from this most current reset. And all that information is from there. But at the most deepest biological level, there is a memory that's sewn in to the DNA and the entire program of the world we're living in, including ourselves. And that information is coming from the original root system. So if you think about like reptilians, for example, let's just use that for an example. And at this point, it's become kind of, ridiculous that people, as a conspiracy theory, essentially, is the idea. Now, I'm not saying that reptilians are real. I'm saying that there is a primordial species origin source, and that humanity is descending through, carrying the DNA that's been altered every single time that there has been a reset cosmically. Like, say there is a cosmic reset, that if you look up at the sky, if you were to come into the world just fresh as a daisy, the first thing you would notice is that the sky, the impact of the world around you, but you would notice the stars and the systems and all the information it's trying to tell you. And at some point, people figured out that there was some kind of information to be gathered from all of that. And they created these incredible this incredible space and time information that we're still getting to this day. But we are not what we are because we just came into the world this way. The species of humanity and the subconscious watcher that is observing everything that you are not is put there. You're just a plan to be sure that everything that can be conceivably conveyed is. And you're driven by, this is just my opinion, you're driven by the experiences previous to your blood to continue to act upon or go against or whatever, but your whole experience is being recorded and nothing goes nowhere. So the moment you do, for example, extinguish the flame, all of that information goes directly back into the system, but it's already been in the system. But there's a hypothetical harvest idea. There's a cosmic harvest idea that if there is a singularity to be reached, ever so often it has to get it. So like everything's going on for thousands and thousands of years, and then it collapses in on itself, and it's like a balloon that pops. But it's like a self-imposed vacuum that's designed by the cosmos to record the information. If you look at nature as it sits, it abides by a singular focus of continuing the cycle regardless. And the information is reborn again every single time. And it's improved upon every time that it happens. If people try to manipulate the system by keeping really good records and good oral records and using language and symbols and information and computers or whatever they may want to do, they're attempting to survive something like a harvest. You only get, I would think that the underground bunkers and all of the particular paths that they research at the medical and scientific level are all kind of actually guided by this idea that this might be something conceivable. I don't know if it's necessarily as devastating as it appears to be, but they do want to come out on top, would be the idea, and hoping to kind of rule over the ashes. I'm talking about the elite that are gatekeeping all of this information about where humanity comes from and what will happen. If people knew that this is a timeline and that it could possibly, after 1 billion years or something like that, probably not that much, but who knows, if it's going to the circle will come back around to itself again, and something very unusual will happen. And yeah, life will survive, but whoever is alive at that time, the you and me may not survive, but the information will go forward. That sort of, with certainty. And then the idea that we may be the actual vessels of that primordial being. So say there is some sort of original demon or angel or reptile being at the beginning of time when humanity was coming into the world of what I should not say human, intelligence was coming into the world. That's the wrong way to put it too. So you have the intelligence of the entire world around you, but then the self-awareness, I don't know if the plants are feeling this way too, but the idea that there's some sort of a watcher effect, observer effect. I don't know if the other species are doing the same thing, but whatever was at the very beginning that had communication with all of the species on the planet is still inside of us. And it's survived all this time by adapting or changing. And so within us, if you were to go through that part of yourself you don't know, like the subconscious mind that comes out in sleep or in hypnotic states and things like that, it knows this information hypothetically going back because it's been retaining it. And we know that is true because DNA is carrying everything that it needed necessarily to get to this point. So we are a map. If you were to take anything living right now, it's a map of what has been and what it took to get to here. And so I think, as far as going back to the forest, actually, I'm done with that. I think that's my point. I think that there is, we talk about aliens or demons or reptiles. They're inside of us. We've evolved. We have come from that. And the stories are telling the past about what has happened. And there's an attempt to somehow get out of this cyclical process. The elites of the world have all of that information, and they use it to make sure that they survive. But then they're also gatekeeping all the information so that people don't live their life that they're supposed to live. And that in itself is retarding the force forward. Because they are they're overly smothering the race because of their own greed and psychopathy. They are preventing people, and people can get this. They can get this information, but they've designed a world that diverts your attention away from the possibility and of following your true instincts of what you would like to do with your time. And so I think that's the most poignant point to make. And that the demon and the alien is within us. And we will, if the entire species was wiped out, the information would still continue because it's still a trajectory that you don't have control over. You don't know your subconscious mind. And if you were to figure it out and contact your subconscious mind, you would be terrified. And most people are. Because they're supposed to just kind of collect information as they're going through their life. You see what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. You're sniffing me out here. I was going to add an extra thread to this. I thought it was too much and too dense. We'll kick it down the road for another time.
Do it.
But just real quick. No, it's what you said. It's basically what you said. There were two new mysterious DNA ancestors of humanity that they just discovered, and they don't know what they are. And funny that you said two demons and aliens. So we'll just leave it at that. So I'll send you the link afterward. But I was going to add it to the show. I was like, nah, this is kind of too dense already. So we're not going to do that. But we will talk about that in the future. And I will send you a link. But hey, you're onto the game here. And that's where my mind was at as well. I think when you look at this stuff, it's really impossible to tell how far back and how primordial this is in terms of what really happened. Like I said, like I always say, it's always narratives. And in these narratives, there's always flaws. And that's the whole point.
Yeah, well, remember, they can continue to try to write things down, track it with a computer, and that may or may not make it. But in the point of it is that the universe, the cosmos, has its own plan, and that is that it embeds it directly into the DNA of the species, and we're just trying to hack it. So they're trying to get a one-up on nature and sort of a preface of like, if we could just master this. And they've been passing this information down. You could call this the fallen angels, the demons that are trying to oppose God, like that kind of concept that, you know, we will not be destroyed. We want to conquer this. We want out. There's something like that going on. So there's this whole belief system surrounding these ideas that people have been trying to overcome for a long time. You know, and then at this level with the governments and the people that are the elites ruling the world, which are not the governments. They are not government entities. There's not I don't believe there's any government on the planet that is a part of this system. And when you're looking at things like it's going to be personal motivation of these particular individuals that have been placed there through specific genetic purposes. So they may not even be of high class. There's a strange manipulation of the population, and there's an obsession with genetics about the blood, and that's because that blood contains the information that they need about, you know, trying to figure it out themselves. If that means annihilation for a certain group, at least they still have the blood, and that's why there's so many different rituals about and around that. But it's a containment, it's a hope to survive a cosmic harvest. If that is the theory, you know, that people could understand, you know, it survives it. Just like the winter, the summer comes, everything appears to be dead, but it comes back. And when it does, it's something different. You know, it's learned from the past.
Amen. Amen. Well said. Well said, all that. Like I said, you're stiffing me out here on where my mind was headed with this. I think there's a lot of things that are important to talk about and think about, and that's why we do this together. You're the best. We got tons of calls we got to get to.
Have a good night, Mike. Thank you so much.
Appreciate the call. You're the best. Jenna, Missouri, the Arcane Observer. Please go give her a follow. You know where to find her. That's the whole point of this. troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down a little bit. It says follow Jennifer right there. Click it to go check out her YouTube channel and all the rest of the stuff she's doing. She's also the co-host with James Salcedo Paranormal on the weekends. Yeah, fire stuff. James, anything to add? And we'll go to so Herschel's up next. Kelly says he's tapping out. Thanks for being patient, my man. We'll get back to send me a message if you want, and we'll kick that forward to whatever you want to talk about. We'll work it into a show. James, anything to add?
Just great to hear from Jen as always. Great call. And yeah, it does. I do agree. There's definitely always been a lot of focus on that DNA or that genes or the blood. I mean, blood has been a big thing for a long time, focusing on it. So great calls so far. Looking forward to this. I'm going to step away for a minute, Mike, but I'll be right back and I'll listen to the rest from here.
You got it, buddy. We're here for you. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Just like this, HerschelStarling.com. What's up, brother? You're on Troubled Minds. How are you? Thanks for being patient. What do you got for us tonight? This is a wild one. A lot of threads, a lot of ideas flowing through it. What you got?
It's great. So I think about the epochs a lot. And so that's what got me going, you know, on this one was like the different cycles and cataclysms and starting over and all that, you know. But as to the question of like, where did these people go? A lot of times I just think, you know, they were into some weird stuff. You know, you talked about blood, you know, they're doing sacrifices. I think a lot of those civilizations died off from the illnesses they got from like the lack of sanitation during those sacrifices, like blood and meat, like going rotten and getting in the water. And then they just get pestilence and die off. Either that or the big feathered serpents just fattened them up and ate them.
I like that theory much better. I'll take that. Viracocha. Kukulkan Khan came down and had his feast, and the civilization disappeared forever.
Yeah, but I just think a lot of those, like, I don't know, it just seems like it's not much of some of that isn't much of a mystery. It just seems like, but it just like, you know, you're sacrificing people on an altar and the blood's dripping down the gutters down into the street, and then it gets and there's evidence that, like, this is kind of a different story, but, you know, where they say like some of the old like Olmec or Mayan civilizations just kind of also just disappeared, but the people higher up on the mountains didn't, because they weren't downstream of all that. you know.
Yeah, and there's some folks out there, and again, I don't know what to believe because everything that we're told, Ricky brought it up earlier, sort of our being Gen X, the elementary school history of kind of learning and all the things. I mean, it was so fractured and broken in pieces as we were coming through, and it's changed so much already in 50 years. But beyond that, there's also a ton of stuff that's been censored historically. I mean, as they say, the winners write the history. And so, that type of stuff is clearly like an in-your-face situation. But then beyond that, there's also all the stuff we have no idea about. So, and I've said this a lot to the point where, when it comes to archaeology and anthropology, we're like working with 0.1% of all the data we should have. And so, it's like a nice narrative, but it's also super flimsy, and there's tons of stuff that we've missed as part of it. And this is a huge piece, a massive piece. We're talking 2,000 years ago in the Amazon, and this is the surface level. Recognize, I said this the other night too, with Troy, right? Like it was, just a Play-Doh. It was a fake. Nobody ever believed Troy was real. And then they found Troy, and then they found layers beneath Troy of generations previous to Troy. So imagine what's underground in this space. So we're talking 2,000 years ago. Imagine if it's like 10,000 years ago. I'm just saying, like, maybe, just maybe, this is more incredible than anybody ever dreamed. And that's why I'm excited about this.
Yeah, nothing would surprise me. I want to go down to those tunnels. So I got a story, a quick one. It won't take long. It's like 229 words.
No problem. We're here for you.
It was written almost a year ago today, August 6, 2025. And I'm just going to HerschelSterling.com, and I'm scrolling down to speculative fiction. And it's right there. It's the first story in speculative fiction. And it's called Pyramids and Pole Shifts. The evidence of the pole shifts appeared before the occurrence. Plates were moving. There were earthquakes. There was erratic pole behavior and other magnetic anomalies, and dormant volcanoes had resurrected. Radiation levels had increased somewhat due to the magnetosphere protection weakening. The shape of the Earth had been changing, not over millennia, but even in a generational span. There were islands forming, while existing islands receded. Those who knew hoarded land and goods. They built underground, and they claimed ancient underground regions for themselves, or in most cases, a futile effort to be preserved. It finally dawned on the susceptible why the political class was deceiving them. Another Sisyphean cycle had completed, an epoch had ended, and a new one begins. The clouds had cleared, the dust had settled, the new equatorial lands were melting, the new poles were adjusting. God knows what sort of DNA would emerge to reassert its evolutionary path, what new iterations would arise. There were pockets of people, the hidden underground, surviving on mountains, the fortunate and unfortunate. Then there was the humming, the resonance. All over the planet, ancient structures vibrated loose their overgrowth. It was like dormant, repowered factories coming back online, built at a time when the Earth was in this position. They were once again relevant. The pyramidal structures came back to life. Their purpose finally understood.
Amen. Far stuff. Herschel is a fantastic writer. I'll just say it that way because it's the truth. And also, look, his head's in the game, forward looking, recognizing what's out there because we're finding it now. But yeah, this is incredible and very well written. I love that. Like the Robert said this too. It's very hard to write something short like that and make it so punchy and poignant. And you do it, man. You do it. That is fire stuff. What else you got regarding that or any of the rest of this stuff? I think it's like I said, lots of threads here. There's the Garden of Eden and all kinds of stuff. Even the Slee stack going back to the land of the lost. I mean, what are we looking at? What do you think?
I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff like that. There's a story called The Crust that I have that's like that. Let me see. I know there's one in the dreams category that's about epochs changing. It's called A Guided Dream, The Epoch Explained. I've read that a couple times on your show. That one is kind of also about like iterations of, of evolution, like iterations of species, how in different epochs, a species will have a different iteration than before. Like it'd be a milder version, like the dinosaurs. The birds are the descendants of dinosaurs. So maybe in the next epoch, our iteration of our DNA will emerge as being a much milder version of humans. Something along those lines. Like I think, about that stuff. I think as you get older, I think as you age, there's a trade-off. What you lose physically, you kind of gain in inner space.
I would agree, actually. I'm not the physical beast I was, but I'm also way smarter, way smarter than I used to be. And it's not even like reading, like you can read a lot of stuff and not be smart. You know what I mean? Like there's a way to synthesize information and look and do it in real time. And this was a challenge, by the way. So I'm not saying that just because you read a lot, you're dumb or not dumb or whatever. I'm not trying to call anybody dumb. I'm saying the reason I'm here doing this is I wanted to synthesize the ideas in my mind in real time from my brain to my mouth that make sense to you. And here I am. Like I've conquered that dragon for the most part. And it's incredible. Like if you're an introvert, as I am really, truly, like I couldn't spit out a sentence when I was 16 years old without crying. Like it was hard because everything that came out of my mouth, I really couldn't, I wanted to take it all back and say it differently every single time. Like everything that came out of my mouth, I was like, I botched that. I ruined that. It was a disaster. I want to take it back. And that's why I went into writing, because when you write, you can think deeply about what you're about to say. And you can even cast out 3 or 4 or 5 iterations of it and then write it as you mean. When you're speaking, it's very much difficult to do that. And some people are masters and just naturals and can do that. I'm not a master yet, but I'm very good. And so it's really been a challenge of my adult life to look that in the face and be like, hey, look, I have got good ideas in my head. Let me say them to the microphone for better or worse, and then see what happens. And here we are. I've improved immensely, and I'm very good at this, and you can be too. Okay, so if I don't inspire you, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing something wrong. Get your ass out there.
And a lot of us, Mike, a lot of us have gotten going on our own stuff as a result of listening to your show. Look how many people have started shows.
You're right. Thank you. Yeah, but I'm just saying, hey, get your ass out there because you can do it too. I'm not some special like magical entity. I'm just a human that challenged my demons, which was the communication space. Sorry, it's your time. Go ahead. I appreciate the acknowledgement and fire stuff. And I want to shout out too, Herschelsterling.com. Go check it. He's literally integrated his entire Substack through code where you can roll down and just like click stuff. It's all, you want to talk about artificial intelligence? It's there. Click it. Like fire stuff. Nice work. Appreciate you very much. Sorry, I'll shut up. Your time.
And if anybody wants to beta test that software, just DM me. Like if you've got content and you want to get the same kind of website that I have, I'll send it to you and you can help me test it.
Perfect.
Anybody, any of the content creators on this show, any of you.
Perfect. I may take you up on that, by the way.
Yeah, I think it's the kind of thing that once you see it, especially once you realize that it's built to be found, it's built to be searched, and there's a side program that comes with it that gives you control over which companies are allowed to crawl you and whether large language you can block the large language models. Like there's a whole like a bunch of peripheral software that goes with it. different things. So, and I think that once people realize that it's built to be searched and to be found, that's the way it's built. It's built with structured data. There's nothing in there that's unnecessary. Everything you see is the bare bones. It's pre-structured, so the AI and the search can just come in, shake hands, and leave.
Perfect.
And my search results, like my downloads, have increased. I was building this thing for 2 months, and I didn't do any Ark of the Bard or any Easytopia, none. I was too busy working on this and doing other stuff. And during that time, while I was building it, my Easytopia views and Ark of the Bard views kept going, even though I wasn't doing new stuff. That's because my outlinks showed people were finding my website.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And by the way, too, double kudos, because while he was working on this, he was explaining it to me. Like, we were talking to DMs a little bit, and we were talking about vibe coding and stuff, and he kept saying it over and over. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, bro. Like, I have no idea why this would be useful to anybody. And then he built it, and now I look at it and I'm like, oh shit, this is why it would be useful, because it's very useful. Sorry for my vision. I didn't get what you were trying to say, and so that's my fault.
I'm good at explaining it. You got to see it.
And I see it, and I'm impressed, is my point. Anyway, back to this. Back to otherworldly beings and the rest of this, the Garden of Eden. What else you got regarding any of this? There's so much here. The threads are deep. It goes back to the primordial forest and all the rest. But I mean, it's exciting. We're talking about LiDAR. We're talking about modern technology. We're talking about the unexplored places of the world. And hey, what comes next?
Well, we talk about all this stuff on this show. We talk about everything from, different spiritual battle, the Ouija boards and all of the other things. And I just really do feel and know and have experienced the fact that there is a spiritual battle, and for all the scary, unexplained stuff out there, there's also a spirit that wants to protect us, that sees us as precious, and that our consciousness is so valuable, and we are honored and respected and loved by the good team.
Amen. And I was thinking about this the other day too, and I don't like to crap on Christians or Muslims or anybody, right? Look, I know there's like philosophy and stuff we can talk. It's for a different time. But I was like, hey, I kind of really live a Christian life myself, though I'm not a Christian, right? And so I don't know, like maybe I could be adopted as maybe like an honorary or something. I'm just saying.
You're by your fruits. It's by your fruits.
Okay.
He only cursed the olive tree because it wasn't growing any olives. It's like you're supposed to be growing olives. Let's go.
Let's go. LFG. Let's go. Absolutely. Let's go. Let's build things too. And I just posted this recently on X. Hey, look, you're here to create things. And as they say, that not just the devil, but the inverse, the bad faith actors of the world and all the rest of that stuff comes into play here. And they want to tear things down. If you find the negative Nancys of the world that are trying to tear down the things that you're building, your positive energy, ignore, move on, continue with your positive energy. That's what this is all about.
And
appreciate you, brother.
Be grateful that those kind of people reject you, because you don't need that energy in your life. Say thank you for being over there.
Amen.
All right.
You're the best. Appreciate you very much. Herschel Sterling.
Thanks, everybody.
Always a pleasure. Have a great night. Thanks for the call. You know him, you love him. Herschel Sterling, commercial Herschel, affectionately, that's a Substack. But just go to herschelsterling.com. Link is in the description. You know where to find our friends. troubledminds.org/friends, or just click the friends link, scroll down, it's alphabetical. Herschel right there, click it, and it goes straight to his website. And you could look, it's got all the things. His books are all there. And this is a fantastic format because it has structured his entire Substack to be easily searchable, easily findable, and look, like he said, like I'm glad he says you can scroll down and find this in the thing, and I do it along with him, and I'm impressed with what he built. See, you can just do things. I appreciate the call. You were the man. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. James, anything to add? And then I'll try Kelly on the phone line. He said he dipped, but he's still on there, so I'm going to just check, and then if not, we'll go to Jacob. Thanks for being patient, friends.
Yeah, no, great call from Herschel. I caught most of it. Had to step away for a minute because of my eyes. But yeah, no, just it is all these things. I don't know. I'm really curious to see what comes from this place. And yeah, I do agree that it's so hard to know what sources to go with and all that. And that's sort of why at this point I never like to say that, Oh, this one thing is this way for sure, because there are things I used to think about as far as like famous paranormal or UFO experiences that I thought, oh, that seems like wow, that probably happened, and then you go and look back at it years later, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm not sure about that now. So anyway, yeah, great call so far. I'm looking forward to the rest of the show.
Yeah, shout out to Ashley. Think, change, repeat. That's what this is all about. Like you shouldn't. there's a line from a Pearl Jam song in the '90s from the album Versus, I believe. I change by not changing at all. No. Like think about things and then learn new things and then change. Think, change, and repeat. Shout out Ashley. That's doing great work over there with Knights of the Storm, and shout out Karen. I see you there, and Daryl, Jason Barker. Fire stuff you guys are all doing. And look, this is the point. Look, I'm just me, but recognize what's happening together as part of these conversations is that it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong in the periphery. It's okay to be wrong entirely. But when there's food for thought that might help or change somebody's mind in a particular space that's good for them, okay, a good way, then conversation is good. Something like this is like therapy in public, out there for the internet forever. It's a lot. It's complicated. But also, by the way, look, many times like we've got a dedicated following thanks to all the amazing friends that make this show go. And the whole reason is because this isn't about judgment. It's not about doom. It's not about, putting our dick in the dirt and crying about the circumstances we do or don't have. It's about looking at the world differently and recognizing together we can make a difference. Shout out Daryl. I'll read Margaret Mead. I'll pull it up right now as we get out of here. Let's go to Kelly in Colorado, 702-857-6939. He dipped, I think, but just in case he's still on the phone line, going to click it because my vibe code thing has when they hang up, it doesn't tell me they hang up. They're still there. So I don't think he's there. Test. Kelly, I think he dipped. Appreciate you. You know him, you love him, Kelly. The first guy that called into this show and then called back, literally been a friend for 8 years plus. Kelly's the man. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Let's go to Jacob. Herschel boy, what's up, brother? Welcome back. Hope you're well. You're on Troubled Minds. What do you got for us tonight?
Just some good points, I think, about the pole shifts, that Herschel was making. That's something to that. Trying to fathom what the world was like during these old ancient empires. I mean, come on, the weather these days is very delicate. Like, the natural disasters and things, so I think we're naive to think that it was probably even like worse or more chaotic back in those times, if we don't think that.
Yeah, the world's always been a dangerous place. The propaganda has been wobbly in our brains as part of it. But my brother said this years ago to me, and he's totally right. I'm like, hey, the world's a dangerous place. He's all, Mike, the world has always been a dangerous place. I'm like, okay, all right, you're right. You win, Uncle Mercy.
Yeah, it's strange. I think about that a lot. I've read a bit about some of the things about where, Atlantis was a real place or whatever. And then, it used to be similar, pretty close to where the equator was nowadays. And then the pole shifts just shifted it way north to where like Nova Scotia is. I don't know if that's a real thing. I don't know. And it doesn't really necessarily tie into where like you're going with some of the jungles and like some of the forests you're talking about. I think you're leading to like central Mexico, northern South America. But that's the spot, yeah. I think you get into the points where like this great flood that gets talked about, the more newer religions talk about this, their version of it, but it goes a lot back farther than that, right? So, and I've always been on, I don't know, there's something weirdly magical about these other civilizations where their history was rewrote because these other places conquered them and rewrote their own history, And I think, that they did that to suit their own agenda, to their faith or whatever, which is whatever it is. We can't really change the past of those things. But I think there probably was these other ancient cultures, Atlantis, Lemuria, all these places. And they had big catastrophes, big cataclysms that happened that wrecked their culture. And I think that's where the original greatest floods actually were. That's what inspired some of these tales that probably went into these other, Christianity, all these things, they ripped off a lot of things. That's pretty well known. But also I think that's why you have some of the pharaohs had the feathered serpent. And then you have that with some of the empires in the South America, and then the Aztecs, and then the Olmecs, and the different pyramids. It's like they were trying to recreate their ways that they knew, and they didn't. I'm sure they had some sense of direction, but they were probably just surviving and going in any direction which they thought was the best way to go and survive. So many thousands of years ago, BC, and I mean, we're just trying to guess. We're trying to pin it all together,
Yeah,
But a lot of that makes sense,
No, you're good. You know what's fascinating to me about that is that in 1910, we were like, oh, dinosaurs were, scaled serpents, and then we come to learn that it wasn't just Archaeopteryx. It was maybe feathered scale. Right. And then you look at some of these other, Viracocha, as we were talking about earlier, Kukulkan, feathered serpents from the sky. There's just this weird dichotomy of this information that was like, okay, so are you telling me, wait, hold on. So you're telling me that the ancient mythologies of some of these places had it more right than archaeology had it. Paleontology had it in 1910. Right. I'm just saying there's a lot of weirdness going on. And that's why I think it's important to look at the world just a little different, and look, it makes me an enemy of the state or whatever, or, I'm not team UFO disclosure and I'm not team Republican or Democrat. I'm just me noticing the world around me, and I smell a rat, and I think it's important to talk about. And part of it is that recognizing some of the things that were correct hundreds of years ago, that now they're like, oh yeah, the velociraptors had feathers. Well, did they fly? Did they come from space? I mean, that's the next disclosure. Maybe that's true disclosure.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a whole other crazier thing where, like, if even say that some sort of maybe old Cro-Magnon man lived back a little bit of the time where the dinosaurs were, you have these predators just coming out in the sky and just probably, I don't know, that was a dangerous thing. You're like, whatever, that's probably a whole different other timeline. But yeah, I think it's safe to say that I think that something came along where history was distorted a bit. I've wrote a few pieces of music touching on this. I wanted to write a whole concept album about what, in my opinion, thought about the whole like downfall of Atlantis. I don't know. I try to be respectful of religion, especially as I get older, but I've just read all the Christian tales and I'm just like, man, this is boring to me. And it's just feels like something's missing, And so I feel maybe enchanted. And why do you have these shows like Stargate Atlantis talking about all these like magical cultures that have this very advanced technology? There's something to me that's like speaking of a hint of truth there. And I wrote some concepts about this where somehow they tapped into this very advanced technology. Sure, it probably corrupted their society, their political figures, and somehow it wiped them out. Do we see familiar patterns repeating themselves, right? So that's something that was a very interesting concept to me. I wrote some songs about this where this crystal technology that they tapped into was like very prominent energy, which was making their culture thrive. And other people were like using it to maybe start wars or something, And it was like, and Mother Nature was probably like, all right, this has got to stop. And I'm going to send you a reality check, and bam, your culture is wiped out, right? And I think there's something to that. And the people tried, there's probably survivors. That part probably makes sense. You're probably finding a piece of wood to survive on in the middle of some piece of water, and then you float and you're on some piece of land you find, and you're like, relieved, whatever. And then you start recreating your culture as you were raised. These things make sense to me, and I think there's something like that. I've been very fascinated about things like that, and I think there's some truth to those old like tales we hear about, and it's just word of mouth, or we can read the books that we hopefully can trust, or we have to. People tell us that raised us. We're like, oh, you got to believe this. You got to believe this. Unless we have our own critical thinking, we start questioning these things. And so I think that's important. But I think there's something to that. There's these old cultures that had many cataclysms, and the official religions that we call official these days have their own version of it. Some of us feel deeply different about it. So.
Yeah,
that's weird stuff.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. And look, this is the reason I tiptoe around the religious stuff. Like I said, like the people teaching me this stuff when I was a kid, like it felt disingenuous to me. It felt like they didn't even believe the crap they were trying to tell me, right? And I'm not saying it's not true. I'm saying that the information from human to human, the human aspect of communication to me as a kid, and when you're a kid, your BS meter is off the charts. You can spot a rat from a mile away. And every time I went into these religious places, I spotted rats everywhere, and I was just like, So I am averse. But once again, it doesn't mean that you can't gain knowledge from these places and these, the tomes and the doctrines and even ritual magic. Many of these things are actually doing ritual magic, which is a whole other conversation for a whole other time. But I've made some recent posts on X. If you haven't followed me on X, please do that. If you guys are on X at Troubled Minds R, don't forget the R for radio, because Troubled Minds is taken by somebody years ago that they're going to charge me $1,000 to get, and then keep $1,000 every month to keep it. I'm like, I'll just keep the R. At Troubled Minds R. Follow me on X. Anyway, you're the best, brothers. Thanks for staying up late with us. Fire stuff. Appreciate you very much. Final thoughts, and you were the man.
No, I think just like you were saying, you got these charlatans you got to be aware of. Like, I grew up Mormon, and luckily I haven't ran into missionaries where I live now, but they'll send these 20-year-old kids to come talk to you about that they know the official way of the Lord. And it's like, man, you haven't even barely lived your life, dude. You don't know nothing, man. I'm not trying to be like mean or like to you, but you got to live your life, and you got to dissect the history. You got to read, dive into that critical thinking, read these other religions, man, study these things, man. They're going to be like, that was a weird thing that bugged me in an early age. Like they had this thing that choose the right, the CTR rings. Man, that bugged me really bad. I was like, is this elitist statement? You'll send these kids out and somehow they influence these other cultures. And I'm going on a bit of a rant here about like religion, but I'm like, you're going to tell people that your religion is better than all the other ones. And you're going to send out these like younger people to try to influence people or go to like knock on doors or whatever. And you're going to try to tell them your version of things. It's hard to take some of that seriously because you haven't even really lived your life versus you're going to go try to influence somebody who's 40, 50 years old, who's been studying things or been devout to their own faith, And I'm just like, man,
or not, or been disillusioned.
Stay in your own lane, perhaps. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, I just look. I'll disagree respectfully. I think stay in your own lane is propaganda.
Respectfully.
No. Because hey, look, we're sloppy. Humans are sloppy. We're supposed to be in this lane and in that lane, and I don't mean in traffic. Don't do that. Stay in your lane in traffic. But otherwise, like through our mind space, we're supposed to be a little sloppy. We're supposed to disagree with ourselves yesterday and today. We're supposed to have new ideas tomorrow, and so that's the point. That's the point of what humans are. So like I get it, and I know that what I'm saying about religion when you're young resonates. And Herschel says this, and this is very, very pertinent to this. He says, a loss or rejection of religion is an imperative to finding God. And I agree. I agree. And that type of thing right there is exactly what this is about. It's there's a conspiracy meme that's like, the Always Sunny in Philadelphia or whatever, that like, some of us found God like this. And you don't have to listen to some guy like reading, Ecclesiastes 2:14 or whatever to you to find God. Like, hey, if God's out there, God's talking to us. And if you can find God without that, then I think that's what this has always been about. Fire start, brother.
That's why I'm glad there's a great counterculture that exists in the Holy Land of Mormonism, and I've been a part of it. It's a strong force, you try to, you got to have that. It's a good balance, but you have this very dominant, like oppressive force of religion. You have to have this counterculture that comes in its own force and just says, hey, we're not going to deal with it. We're not going to accept this for your narrative of things. We're going to bring our own things. And that's important too. It's the beauty. You got to let that also something that thrives. So that's all I'm going to say.
Amen, brother. Find the beauty, stick with the beauty. And don't forget the beauty is also you. Like if you can't recognize beauty, then right, we're doing something wrong. So the recognition of beauty in and of itself is beauty itself. You get it? So you're beautiful. Appreciate
100%.
you, brother. Appreciate you, brother.
100%.
You're the best. Thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. Always a pleasure. Glad to have you back. And Jacob, Herschel boy, Mephisto Walls on Discord here. Please give him a follow. I'm going to drop you down. Thanks for the call. You know what to do. Go give him a follow. troubledminds.org/friends. Very talented musician, that guy. Great thinker, as you can tell. And that's the point. Let's all of our skills come together in this space. troubledminds.org. Click the friends link or /friends. Scroll down. Very easy. Jacob's on there. That's Jacob right there. Boom. Go check out his music. Go support our friends. And that's the whole point of this. I have no idea who this is. It's a Las Vegas area code, so I'm hoping it's not a troll from my work or something. Let's go for it. Mystery caller, west of the Rockies. You're on Troubled Minds. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? Go right ahead.
Hey, it's Jay from Arizona. I'm calling from my girl's phone. I apologize. She has a different area code.
That's okay. I was worried it was somebody from my work that found me, so you're good. Go ahead. What do you got?
Yeah, no, I'm glad for the topic tonight. Always is interesting, and thanks again. I'll try to make it quick, but just drop in some knowledge again, just as you do. I don't know where to take it per se regarding the topic. I guess just elevation and some of the interesting perspectives or points that the callers made. But again, I'm not expecting. I'm just expecting truth to come out of my mouth, not really, any feedback or anything. I mean, to each his own perspective, but the elevations, I don't know how deep you guys get into it with research outside of man-made search queries, I guess, more like books and, I guess forbidden knowledge, not even forbidden knowledge, but knowledge that's not even being pursued anymore because people lack the effort and initiative to really sit down and be bored and actually go through page by page to find the accurate information. But I guess this kind of goes back to different cultures as well as, NASA, the Department of Defense, et cetera. And for me, what I've kind of gathered is just the elevation aspect is it's the firmament again. And I don't know if you guys ever looked into like the original text or books that were published during our times, not even ancient times per se, but I forgot what it was. I think it was an encyclopedia. And one of my uncles, he gave me one and it's in there. I think it was like in the 1950s or 40s. It was printed about the firmament and the elevation. And it kind of pertains to why the cultures were so high in those mountain ranges like Peru and, the monks, et cetera. But what's interesting too, I kind of came across the number one consumer of helium is NASA and the Department of Defense. And then the ones that own it is ExxonMobil, and they own BlackRock, Vanguard, and those also own all the media outlets, Google, et cetera. So it kind of makes you wonder, discernment, like what is being portrayed per se, and I guess our reality today versus what has been written, I guess. And then what gets even more interesting, I guess my mind works a little differently, but I kind of believe the Nazis did win the war. And the reason I say that, is if you look at it in reality, who ran NASA? Wernher von Braun. A lot of these Nazis came over here, and then I don't know if you guys get deep into it, but I dabbled a little bit. I'm part of the Screen Actors Guild, and I remember back in the day, just researching a lot of old Hollywood, like in the 50s and 40s during the wars, like World War I, World War II. And one of the playboys was Errol Flynn. He was actually a Nazi too, like a spy or something like that. I don't know if you guys ever researched him. He was pretty interesting. And he was a Hollywood star. And again, they infiltrated, what do you want to call it? I don't know what you want to call it, media, Hollywood, and with Disney and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting how all the characters, I guess, per se, of Germany came over here and they kind of infiltrated, you know, different departments of our civilization, I guess, and how they ran it. And then with Wernher von Braun, it's really interesting too, not only with his headstone with what he had written in stone regarding the firmament when he died, but his brother, he was also a character too. He was kind of a playboy and kind of funny. But what was interesting is his brother lived out here in Arizona, and he got caught once by the military. He was trying to, I think it was platinum or plutonium. He stole it, and he was trying to sell it. I don't know why, but him and his brother were completely two different characters. And anyways, it just gets kind of interesting. And then going back to civilizations with von Braun, with rockets and stuff like that, he did a lot of trips or expeditions per se to Mexico. One of them was the Zona de Silencio, the Zone of Silence in Mexico. It's in, I think it's near Chihuahua or somewhere. But if you guys get into it, it's kind of interesting, you know, the patterns of how everything kind of got woven, and then what ended up being portrayed. And then you kind of see what's going on right now with Elon Musk and all this. And then, like you said, certain tribes or civilizations, when they this is just my belief. I mean, again, I just think it was the firmament. And it's kind of interesting too today with, you know, per se movies or media, like, you know, a lot of them, you guys call it science fiction, but they kind of steal it. Like that movie, for instance, I know a lot of people like it, is with Matthew McConaughey. I forgot the movie where he goes to space or something like that and time travels or whatever.
Interstellar.
The 2D, 3D. But again, that's just that. Yeah, they're knocking off all the spiritual realm aspects and just kind of creating their own version of it. But it's just a spiritual realm. That's all it is. The 2D and 3D. It's kind of like aerial psychology. It gets into like skydiving and aviation and stuff like that. But anyways, it's just it's interesting per se. You know, when you kind of go down the truth of the rabbit hole versus kind of like, you know, I don't know what the word is, not discernment, but just kind of the filter that they're feeding us through, you know. And then the same goes with per se, I guess whatever you want to call them, UFOs, aliens. I mean, if you really look at them, what do they look like? They look like demons. And that's just my perspective. And another interesting thing too is like the Book of Solomon. If you ever guys get into his writings, he talks about shooting stars. And, you know, if you get into his text, it's interesting what he writes, and it's based upon the wisdom of God. And he talks about shooting stars being demons falling from, they fly up to the realm of the firmament to eavesdrop on God. And I'm not making this stuff up. I mean, I know it sounds like this sounds crazier than what you guys are into in Hollywood and movies and what, you know, what they're brainwashing us with. But again, to each his own. I mean, I'm not expecting you guys to go down that path or, you know, whatever you guys believe, I respect. But, you know, I just appreciate what you guys do. I kind of feel like this is a church and we're all just kind of coming together with knowledge and hopefully discerning the truth from the nonsense, which a lot of it is nonsense here in America.
Not just here.
But again, look up the elevation aspect of that, and then research it per se, and it'll get interesting. I mean, like I said, I don't have all the answers, but I mean, a lot of it's truth. It's kind of when you go down the path of von Braun and you know, even Jack Parsons, he was a cool character too. I don't know if you guys ever researched him, one of the guys in the military, and he was deeply involved in. I guess they stole a lot of the teachings from the church and they kind of did their own version of it. But again, calling upon the spiritual realm, you know, and they were able to communicate to the spiritual realm per se, 2D, 3D, you know, and anyways, I'll let you guys go. I got to get going, but, you know, thanks again for what you do and, you know, take care.
You're the best. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it very much. You be safe out there. Have a great night and we'll talk to you soon. You know, I mean, love him. That's Jay in Arizona. the official skydiver of Arizona. He had to dip. I had a question for him, and I'll just leave this here with you guys to ponder, is that he brought up the firmament. And the firmament itself, of course, it's an ancient term, but also he spends a lot of time in airplanes jumping out of them. So he's probably had a better look of the firmament than I ever have. So I kind of wanted to ask him. Anyway, just a thought experiment for y'all. I'm not from Texas, but y'all. Anyway, that's it. Hey, look, I'm just me. And by the way, if you think that you can't be a talk show host, maybe you can. Challenge yourself. It just took 6, 8, 10, 15, 30, 150 months of nobody listening to be able to have the thoughts in my head come to my mouth coherently to do this. So please, if you're not inspired by this, I don't know. Like I said, shout out Herschel and everybody else. I appreciate you guys for creating the things you do. It's easy. It's easier than it looks, but also it's harder than it looks. But if you don't try, you don't get. James, anything to add? You were the man. Appreciate you very much. Thanks for being patient and part of the thing and the glue of the show. You're an animal, and I mean that in the nicest way.
Just glad to be here. Great calls all night, and I think I'm pretty. This animal is pretty well worn out. So, thank you for having me on as always.
Thanks for being here. We'll say for James, ow. James is a coyote tonight, worn out by dark of night. I did Ricky's show. He's on the show. Feel better. I know he had an eye exam recently, and it's kicked his butt for a few days. But rest up, feel better. Always a pleasure. Thanks for being part of this. You are the best, as you know.
Thank you for having me, as always.
Glad to have you. Look, hey, do the thing, right? Like this is the point. Recognize that it's okay to be wrong about things. It's okay to be right about things. But this is where not just the modern culture war rests, it's where the narratives of history, of the modern times, and of the future, where this all comes together. Like if you can't recognize that everybody's trying to tell you a story and convince you of something that you may not be super hyped about, it's like, look, I'm not super hyped about a lot of the things people are trying to tell me. I'm like, well, interesting. Tell me more. Not this group, of course. This group is on fire and on point, and notice our cup runneth over. We have so many incredible, smart people with amazing ideas from different walks of life. And do recognize, please, that that's what it's about. Honestly, like you can't do this man on the street stuff. You might get stabbed. I mean, go downtown Vegas with a microphone. I mean, like at least here in my home, I'm safe. I'm not going to get stabbed. Not that I expect any of you to stab me, but you know what I mean. It's very important for people to talk to each other outside of the physical space of some monstrous mountain of a dude. It's like, oh yeah? What do you mean, little man? Like, I meant we're having a conversation. Like, don't bury me, please. Anyway, you get the idea. That's what it's about. Ideas will live forever. People will come and go. Okay? So entertain the ideas, and I appreciate it very much. Thanks for being part of this. Thanks for staying up late with us. Thanks for caring about whatever comes out of this and all of my imperfections. Thanks for excusing them. Appreciate you guys very much. If you want to help us, you know the drill. Help our friends. troubledminds.org/friends. Click the things, do the things. There's a wall of people there. See all those people? Yeah. It's not an accident. Not an accident. We found each other for a reason. Okay? So look, if you appreciate this show and you haven't spent some time going down that list and following people and helping them, legitimately 100% you're hurting my feelings. Do you want to know how many hours I put into this? So don't give me it's going to take me 20 minutes on Thursday, Mike, to go through and click some things and make some accounts to help these folks. Nope, no sympathy. Get your ass over there and follow our friends. 95% of it's free. 98% of it's free. There's some people selling books here and there. And if you have disposable income, you should be helping and buying their books. Okay? That's it. All right. If you want to help us directly, spread the word. Let people know a conversation is happening, but we're not going to tell you who to vote for. We're not going to take their narratives and stuff them down your throat. We're going to talk about ideas that are ancient and modern and futuristic, and that's how this works. This one goes out to each and every one of you. Be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night.